Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku absorbed the spirit bomb? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Absorption. The emerald skies of Namek reflected in the swirling orb of pure energy hovering above Goku's upraised hands. Each microsecond added more power as life forces from across the galaxy surrendered their essence to his desperate gambit. The spirit bomb grew, its circumference expanding beyond what any mortal had ever dared to control, a miniature sun composed of borrowed hope. Frieza's laughter cut through the howling winds that spiraled around them. Whatever pathetic trick you're attempting won't save you, monkey. The tyrant's voice carried a tremor of uncertainty beneath its mockery. His tail lashed against the fractured ground, sending crystalline shards of Namekian soil skyward. Blood trickled from the corner of Goku's mouth as he maintained his concentration. His muscles trembled under the strain of channeling such vast energy. King Kai's warning echoed in his memory. Never attempt to control more power than your body can withstand. This ends now, Frieza. Goku shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of energy that surrounded him. The spirit bomb had grown to impossible proportions, containing the freely given energy of countless beings across the cosmos. It was enough, it had to be enough, to end the nightmare that was Frieza. The tyrant's crimson eyes widened as he finally comprehended the scale of the attack. You wouldn't dare, you'll destroy the entire planet. Better that than let you continue your reign of death. Goku's arms trembled as he prepared to launch the massive sphere. One clean throw would end it all. Yet in that crystalline moment of decision, something unprecedented occurred. The spirit bomb, pulsing with the amalgamated energy of billions, resonated with Goku's own life force in a way no one could have predicted. Where their energies touched, they didn't repel as separate entities should, they called to each other like long-lost fragments of the same whole. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Goku felt a new possibility unfold before him. The technique had always been about gathering energy, then releasing it as a weapon. But what if I could absorb this energy instead of releasing it? The thought wasn't fully his own. It seemed to originate from somewhere within the spirit bomb itself, a collective whisper of all the life forces that had contributed their energy. Before he could question on the wisdom of such an unprecedented action, instinct took over. Instead of pushing the energy away, Goku pulled it inward. The universe shattered into white. Pain beyond comprehension engulfed every cell of his being. Each atom of his existence simultaneously combusted and froze, expanded and contracted. The barrier between self and other dissolved as billions of individual energies cascaded through him, each with its own memory. Hope, dream, and fear. Somewhere distant, he heard Frieza's voice. What are you doing, you fool? Goku couldn't answer. His consciousness expanded beyond the confines of his physical form. He was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, feeling the gentle caress of solar winds on Jupiter's clouds, experiencing the quantum dance of particles in the heart of a distant star. Sensing the determined struggle of a seed pushing through soil on a planet he'd never heard of. Through it all, his Saiyan determination provided an anchor. I am Son Goku, he reminded himself. As the cosmos threatened to dissolve his identity completely. I am here to protect those who cannot protect themselves. This core truth served as the eye of the hurricane, allowing him to gradually integrate rather than be obliterated by the torrent of energy. Slowly, painfully, he pulled the disparate threads of his consciousness back together, weaving them around that central purpose. The blinding light receded. Namek's broken landscape materialized around him. Frieza stood transfixed, his customary arrogance replaced by naked fear. What are you? Goku looked down at his hands. Energy unlike anything he'd ever known coursed through his veins, not as separate from him but as an integral part of his being. His usual orange GI remained, but his body now emitted a subtle luminescence that shifted between all colors and none, like light refracting through clear water. I'm still me, Goku answered, surprised by the resonant quality of his voice. It carried undertones that hadn't existed before, echoes of countless others whose energy now resided within him. But I'm also something more. He could feel everything, the microscopic organisms in Namek's dying oceans. The faltering life force of the planet itself. The cold emptiness of Frieza's heart, shaped by privilege and cruelty into something barely recognizable as living. And he could see, truly see, the tyrant for the first time. Not just his physical form, but the intricate patterns of energy that composed him, the weaknesses in his life force where pride had compromised structural integrity, the concentrated points of power that could be disrupted with precise application of counterforce. Whatever trick you've played changes nothing. Frieza snarled, launching himself forward with a speed that would have been invisible to Goku mere moments before. Now, it seemed almost leisurely. Goku sidestepped the attack without apparent effort, his movements fluid as flowing water. I can see you, Frieza. All of you. Very choice you've ever made that brought you to this moment. The tyrant spun, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that carved smoking trenches across Namek's surface. Goku didn't dodge. Instead, he extended one hand, and the deadly projectile slowed, stopped, then spiraled into a compressed sphere that he casually absorbed into his palm. Impossible, Frieza howled, genuine panic breaking through his imperial demeanor. The universe spoke to me, Goku said, advancing steadily. Every life you've ended, every world you've destroyed, their memory lives in this energy. They deserve justice. Frieza's power erupted in desperate fury. He transformed again, his body contorting as he accessed his final, most terrible form. The display of raw power would have once left Goku awestruck. Now, he perceived it as little more than a child's tantrum, impressive in its way, but fundamentally uncontrolled. I am Lord Frieza. I am the Emperor of the universe. Spittle flew from the tyrant's mouth as he gathered destructive energy between his hands. Die with your worthless planet. The death ball that Frieza launched carried enough power to shatter Namek's core. Goku watched it approach with newfound perception, seeing not just the attack but the intricate pattern of energies that composed it, the structural weaknesses inherent in its chaotic formation. He didn't counter with a Kamehameha or attempt to deflect it. Instead, he walked directly into the raging inferno of destructive energy, parting it with his hands as if clearing tall grass. Each step purified more of the corrupt force, Ray, harmonizing it with the natural flow of the universe. Frieza's triumphant laugh died in his throat. Goku emerged from the dissipating energy unscathed. Your way of existing is fundamentally out of harmony, Frieza. I can help you find a better path. I need no help from a monkey. Frieza shrieked, launching himself forward in a desperate physical assault. With gentle precision, Goku intercepted him mid-flight, one hand resting on the tyrant's chest. I can feel the fear that drives you. The emptiness you've tried to fill with domination. His voice carried genuine compassion. It doesn't have to end this way. I fear nothing. Frieza spat, struggling against what appeared to be the lightest of touches yet somehow held him completely immobile. Then I'm sorry. Goku closed his eyes. May you find in death the peace you rejected in life. A pulse of purified energy, not destructive but transformative, flowed from Goku's hand into Frieza's core. The tyrant's eyes widened in sudden understanding before his physical form dissolved into motes of light that scattered across Namek's broken landscape, each particle seeking its own path back to harmony with the cosmos. Goku stood alone on the dying planet, the full implications of what he'd done, what he'd become, only beginning to register. He felt the approaching cataclysm in Namek's core, the final collapse that would destroy this world completely. With a thought more than a technique, he transported himself to where the surviving Namekians and his friends had gathered. Their shocked expressions upon seeing him confirmed that his transformation was visible to others. Goku, Krillin's voice quavered. Is that really you? It's me, he assured them, though he wasn't entirely certain of the truth in that statement anymore. Frieza is gone, but this planet has only minutes left. We need to leave now. The ships are destroyed, Bulma said, her scientific mind already analyzing the subtle radiance that surrounded him. We're trapped. Goku smiled. Not anymore. With a gesture, he created a sphere of protective energy around the entire group. Unlike any technique he'd used before, this wasn't about focusing his ki through effort and will. It was about remembering the pattern of space-time, visualizing their destination, and allowing the universe to reform around that intention. Between one breath and the next, Namek vanished. Earth's blue skies surrounded them instead. They stood on the lookout, Master Roshi and the others rushing forward in shocked delight at their sudden appearance. Questions came from all directions, about Frieza, about Namek, about how they'd returned. Through it all, Goku remained uncharacteristically silent, struggling to process the cacophony of sensations and awareness flooding through him. Earth felt simultaneously more real and less substantial than before. He could perceive the intricate web of life that covered the planet, from the smallest microorganisms to the collective consciousness of humanity itself. And beyond Earth, the vast cosmic tapestry stretched before his newly awakened senses. Distant worlds, other dimensions, realms of existence he'd never imagined. Goku, Kai Si. Hai's voice cut through his expanded awareness, anchoring him momentarily to the here and now. She approached cautiously, eyes wide with uncertainty. What happened to you? He tried to find words that could possibly explain. I absorbed the spirit bomb instead of throwing it. All that energy, it changed me. Changed how? She asked, reaching out but stopping just short of touching the subtle aura that surrounded him. I'm still figuring that out, he admitted. The truth was far more complex than he could articulate. How could he explain that he now perceived reality as patterns of energy rather than solid matter? That he could feel the thoughts and emotions of everyone around him as clearly as physical touch. That part of him existed simultaneously across multiple planes of existence. Chi-Chi's eyes filled with tears. Not of joy at his return, but of grief. Even without his enhanced perception, he would have recognized the emotion. You're not coming home, are you? The question pierced him. Home. Such a simple concept that now felt impossibly distant. The modest house in the mountains where they'd built their life together. The ordinary pleasures of meals shared, of training Gohan, of sleeping beside his wife. Could those things still be part of his existence? Or would the cosmic awareness now flooding his consciousness make such human connections impossible? I want to, he said truthfully. But I don't know if I can. This power, it's unstable, unpredictable. I don't fully understand or control it yet. Before Chi-Chi could respond, Goku doubled over, a surge of energy rippling through him uncontrollably. The lookout trembled beneath their feet as reality itself seemed to warp around him. His friends backed away in alarm as his aura flared blindingly bright. Something's wrong, he gasped through gritted teeth. The energy, it's not fully integrated yet. What can we do? Piccolo demanded, ever practical even in the face of the incomprehensible. Goku straightened with visible effort, wrestling the volatile energy back under tenuous control. I need time, space, somewhere away from people until I can understand what's happening to me. The hyperbolic time chamber, Mr. Popo suggested quietly. One day outside is a year within. You could have the time you need to master this transformation. Goku nodded gratefully. That might work. I'll come with you, Gohan volunteered immediately, stepping forward with determination beyond his years. No, Goku's refusal was gentle but absolute. This is something I have to do alone. The energies inside me are too volatile, I won't risk anyone else. He turned to Chi-Chi, his expression softening. I'll come back as soon as I can. I promise. The distance in her eyes told him she didn't fully believe him, or perhaps didn't fully believe he would still be himself when he returned. He couldn't blame her. He wasn't certain of that himself. As Mr. Popo led him toward the time chamber's entrance, an unfamiliar energy signature prickled at the edge of his awareness. Something powerful was approaching Earth, something not entirely of this dimension. Wait, Goku said, stopping abruptly. Someone's coming. The Z fighters tensed, scanning the skies. Frieza, Krillin asked nervously. No, Goku shook his head. Something different. A point of light appeared in the clear blue sky, rapidly expanding into what appeared to be a tear in the fabric of reality itself. Through this dimensional rift came not a spaceship but a single metallic pod, its surface inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. The pod crashed into the lookout with enough force to crack the ancient tiles, yet somehow the impact caused no further structural damage, as if the laws of physics had been selectively suspended around the object. Silence fell as they all stared at the unexpected arrival. The pod's surface rippled like liquid metal, then parted to reveal its occupant. A woman emerged, tall and powerfully built, with a proud bearing that immediately reminded Goku of Vegeta. Her skin was the deep bronze of someone born under a red sun, her hair as black as space itself, falling in a Arrear's braid to the middle of her back. She wore armor unlike any Goku had seen before, not the flexible material of Frieza's forces, but interlocking plates that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Most striking were her eyes, completely black except for pinpricks of white light that seemed to burn from within, like distant stars against the void. She surveyed the gathered defenders of Earth with cold assessment, then focused on Goku with unmistakable recognition. "So," she said, her voice carrying the resonance of ancient authority, "you're the one who's caused the dimensional disturbance." Her language wasn't Earth's, yet Goku understood it perfectly, another manifestation of his transformed consciousness. "Who are you?" Piccolo demanded, moving protectively in front of the others. The woman ignored him completely, her star-filled eyes fixed on Goku. "I am Kala, last surviving elite of the true Saiyan bloodline. I've slept in stasis since planet Vegeta's destruction, awakened only by the cosmic disturbance you've created." She approached without fear, circling Goku with analytical precision. "You've done something impossible, something forbidden." "It wasn't exactly planned," Goku admitted. Studying her in return, her key signature confirmed her claim. She was undeniably Saiyan, yet different from any he'd encountered. Her energy flowed in disciplined patterns that spoke of training beyond anything Vegeta had demonstrated. "Planned or not, you've upset the balance between dimensions." Her tone carried neither accusation nor alarm, merely statement of fact. "The energy you've absorbed was never meant to be contained within a single vessel. It should have dispersed across the cosmos, maintaining the equilibrium of force and counterforce." "Meaning what, exactly?" Bulma interjected, her scientific curiosity overcoming caution. Kala spared her a brief glance. "Meaning reality itself will attempt to correct the imbalance. Forces will be drawn to this world that your people cannot comprehend. Much less combat." A chill ran through the gathered warriors. Earth had faced threats before, Piccolo Daimao, the Saiyans, Frieza's forces. But something in Kala's tone suggested dangers of an entirely different magnitude. "Is there a way to fix it?" Goku asked. To restore the balance without, he left the thought unfinished, unwilling to suggest relinquishing the power that now defined his existence. "Unknown," Kala replied with brutal honesty. "No one has ever successfully integrated the collective energy of a spirit bomb before. According to ancient Saiyan texts, attempts were made in our earliest history. None survived the process." "Well, I did," Goku said, his characteristic optimism surfacing through the cosmic awareness. "So there must be a way forward." A tremor ran through him as he spoke, another surge of uncontrolled energy causing the air around him to shimmer like a heat mirage. The lookout's tiles cracked in expanding circles from where he stood. Kala stepped back, her expression calculating. "You haven't stabilized the integration. The power is consuming you from within. That's why I'm going to train," Goku explained, gesturing toward the time chamber. "To master this new power. Conventional training won't help you," she stated flatly. "What you're experiencing isn't a transformation like Super Saiyan. It's a fundamental alteration of your existence at the quantum level. You need specialized knowledge. And I suppose you have this knowledge?" Piccolo asked skeptically. For the first time, Kala smiled, a bare quirking of lips that held little warmth. "I am the keeper of the ancient Saiyan wisdom, trained in techniques lost even before Vegeta's time. Techniques specifically designed for energy harmonization and spiritual integration." "Convenient timing," Vegeta himself remarked acidly, having maintained suspicious silence until now. "A previously unknown Saiyan elite appears precisely when needed, with exactly the knowledge required." Kala turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Prince Vegeta, the child who was to carry our legacy, instead raised as Frieza's attack dog." Her voice dripped with contempt. "You know nothing of true Saiyan heritage, only the warrior culture that evolved after our spiritual traditions were suppressed." Before Vegeta could respond with predictable rage, another voice interrupted. Cool, precise, and distinctly human. "Fascinating. A stasis pod designed for trans-dimensional preservation, activated by specific energy frequencies rather than a timer mechanism." All eyes turned to the new arrival. A woman in her late 30s stood at the edge of the lookout, having apparently arrived by conventional means while their attention was focused on Kala. She wore a laboratory coat over practical clothing. Her auburn hair pulled back in a functional ponytail. Intelligent hazel eyes surveyed the scene through wire-rimmed glasses, missing no detail. "And you are?" Master Roshi inquired, eyebrows raised at the unexpected appearance of an ordinary-seeming human in the midst of their cosmic crisis. "Dr. Lena Voss, quantum physicist and key energy researcher," she replied, advancing with clipboard in hand. "My instruments detected the most extraordinary energy signature emanating from this location, a pattern I've been theorizing might exist but had never observed." Her attention fixed on Goku with scientific intensity. "You're the source. Incredible." Goku felt a curious sensation as her analytical gaze catalogued his transformation. Unlike his friends, whose perceptions were colored by emotional responses, drive, Voss observed him with pure intellectual curiosity, seeing patterns and possibilities where others saw only strangeness and danger. "This is a private matter," Piccolo growled. "How did you even find this place?" "Dr. Voss remained unintimidated. "I've been developing technology to track and measure key energy for years. Most scientists dismissed my research as pseudoscience." She gestured to a compact device strapped to her wrist. "But this detector proved me right. Though I never anticipated finding readings of this magnitude." Another wave of unstable energy surged through Goku, stronger than before. The lookout shuddered. Tiles cracked and pillars swayed as reality itself seemed to warp around him. "He's destabilizing faster than I expected," Kala observed clinically. "Without intervention, the energy will reach critical mass within hours. What happens then?" Chi-Chi demanded, fear making her voice sharp. "Best case, his physical form disintegrates as the energy disperses." Kala's star-filled eyes remained fixed on Goku. "Worst case, the uncontrolled release creates a cascading reaction that tears a permanent hole between dimensions, eventually consuming this planet entirely." Silence fell as the implications registered. Goku closed his eyes, concentrating on maintaining control of the surging power within him. He could feel it now, the fund. A mental instability at the core of his transformation. The energies he'd absorbed weren't merely fighting integration. They were actively seeking escape, drawn toward their natural state of cosmic dispersion. "There might be another option," Dr. Voss said, breaking the silence. She approached Goku with scientific boldness, seemingly oblivious to the danger. "My research suggests key energy responds to specific harmonic frequencies. If we could identify the resonance pattern of the absorbed energy, we might stabilize it through controlled counter-oscillation." "You're suggesting technological intervention for a spiritual imbalance." Kala's tone carried aristocratic disdain. "Typical human arrogance." Dr. Voss adjusted her glasses. "I'm suggesting a complementary approach. Your spiritual techniques combined with my scientific understanding might offer solutions neither could achieve alone." Goku looked between the two women, the ancient Saiyan warrior and the modern human scientist, and felt an unexpected resonance. Their energies, though vastly different in nature and expression, shared a common core of disciplined inquiry and determined purpose. "I think you're both right," he said. Wincing as another surge of energy rippled through him. "And I'm willing to try anything at this point. We should move somewhere less populated," Piccolo advised, glancing meaningfully at the earth spread below them. "If something goes wrong," Goku nodded, recognizing the wisdom in this. "I know a place, a valley in the northern mountains, far from any settlements. I'll need equipment from my lab," Dr. Voss said, already making notes on her clipboard. "Specialized stabilization arrays, quantum harmonizers, energy-dampening fields. And I require sacred herbs that grow only in specific environments," Kala added. "For the spiritual purification rituals." Goku focused through another wave of pain. "Bulma, can you help drive Voss get whatever she needs?" When Bulma nodded, he turned to Gohan. "Son, would you assist Kala in finding her herbs?" "Of course, father," Gohan replied earnestly. "The rest of you should stay here," Goku continued. "If I can't stabilize this energy." He left the sentence unfinished. Everyone understood the implication. Earth would need its remaining defenders. Chi-Chi stepped forward, her expression a complex mixture of fear, resignation, and determination. "I'm coming with you, Chi-Chi. It's too dangerous." "You're my husband," she interrupted firmly. "Whatever you've become, whatever happens next, I won't let you face it alone." The simple decla, Ration touched something within him that transcended his cosmic transformation. For all the vast awareness he'd gained, the human connection represented by Chi-Chi's loyalty remained profoundly meaningful. Before he could respond, time seemed to stutter around him. For a fraction of a second, he perceived not the present moment but a cascade of possible futures branching outward like the limbs of a great tree. In one branch, Chi-Chi remained by his side through his transformation, their relationship evolving into something neither could currently imagine. In another, her presence catalyzed a catastrophic energy release that destroyed them both. The vision passed as quickly as it had come, leaving him disoriented and more uncertain than ever. "Let's move quickly," he said, deliberately avoiding a direct answer to Chi-Chi's declaration. "We don't have much time." Transportation to the northern valley required no effort beyond intention. One moment they stood on the lookout, the next, the Y materialized in a pristine alpine meadow surrounded by towering peaks. The transition caused Goku another spasm of pain. Each use of his new abilities accelerated the energy's destabilization. "I'll return with my equipment as soon as possible, drive," Voss promised before departing with Bulma toward the nearest Capsule Corp facility. "The herbs I need grow at high altitudes, in soil untouched by human development," Kala informed Gohan, pointing toward the snow-capped mountains. "We should begin our search immediately." As they dispersed on their respective missions, Goku found himself alone with Chi-Chi in the valley. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions neither knew how to address. "Does it hurt?" she finally asked, watching the subtle pulses of energy that visibly rippled beneath his skin. "Yes," he admitted. "There seemed little point in hiding the truth. But not in a way I can really explain. It's like feeling every cell in my body trying to exist in multiple places simultaneously." Chi-Chi nodded as if she understood, though Goku knew she couldn't possibly comprehend the sensation. "You've always pushed yourself beyond limits, Goku. Always chasing the next level of strength." Her voice held no accusation, merely observation. "Is this what you wanted? To transcend even what it means to be Saiyan?" The question gave him pause. Had so, part of him desired this transformation. Had his eternal drive to surpass limitations unconsciously guided his decision to absorb rather than release the spirit bomb? "No," he answered truthfully. "I just wanted to defeat Frieza and protect everyone. This," he gestured to his luminescent form, "wasn't something I planned or anticipated. But now that it's happening." Chi-Chi pressed, knowing him too well to accept partial answers. "Part of you is excited by the possibility, isn't it? The new frontier of power to explore." Another energy surge interrupted his response, this one strong to scorch the grass in a circle around him. Chi-Chi stepped back instinctively, fear momentarily overcoming her determination to remain close. The involuntary separation pierced Goku more deeply than physical pain. He saw in that instinctive withdrawal a fundamental truth he'd been avoiding. He was becoming something his wife, perhaps anyone who knew him before, could no longer fully connect with. "I'm sorry," he said quietly when the surge subsided. "I never wanted this to come between us." Chi-Chi straightened her shoulders, visibly marshalling her courage to step forward again. "We've faced impossible situations before. We'll get through this one too." Before Goku could respond, a new sensation prickled at his expanded awareness, a subtle distortion in the fabric of reality several kilometers above their position. He looked up sharply. "What is it?" Chi-Chi asked, following his gaze to the empty sky. "I'm not sure," Goku replied slowly. "It feels like a thinning between dimensions. Something trying to push through." Even as he spoke, the distortion intensified. The clear blue sky seemed to fold inward upon itself, creating what appeared to be a vortex of darker space. From within this unnatural phenomenon emerged a humanoid figure, descending with deliberate grace toward their position. "Is it another Saiyan?" Chi-Chi asked anxiously. Goku shook his head. "No, something else entirely. Something not quite physical." The figure touched down at the edge of the meadow, a woman of impossible beauty and equally impossible otherworldliness. Her form appeared human at first glance. Tall and elegantly proportioned, clad in flowing garments that seemed woven from the substance of space itself. But subtle details contradicted human origin, the too perfect symmetry of her features. The faint luminescence of her alabaster skin, the eyes that shifted color like auroras dancing across polar skies. "Greetings, vessel," she spoke, her voice harmonizing with the natural sounds of the valley as if she were an extension of the environment rather than a separate entity within it. "I am Arya, custodian of the seventh boundary." Goku stepped forward protectively, positioning himself between the newcomer and Chi-Chi. "What is the seventh boundary? And why do you call me vessel?" Arya regarded him with ageless patience. "The seventh boundary separates your dimension from the higher realms of pure energy, what primitive cultures once called the divine spheres. I maintain the integrity of this boundary, ensuring appropriate separation between material and energy states of existence." She approached with fluid grace, each step seeming to momentarily phase through rather than connect with the ground beneath her feet. "As for vessel, it is what you have become. A physical container for energy that rightfully belongs beyond the material plane." "You mean the spirit bomb's energy?" Goku asked, fighting through another wave of pain as the power within him surged again. "Yes, the technique you call spirit bomb temporarily draws pure life energy across the boundaries between dimensions. It was designed to gather this energy briefly, then immediately release it as a purifying force. By absorbing it instead, you've created a dangerous anomaly." Chi-Chi stepped forward, protective instinct overcoming caution. "My husband didn't know what would happen. He was trying to save everyone from Frieza." Arya's expression remained serene, untouched by human emotion. Intention is irrelevant to cosmic balance. The fact remains that his actions have created instability across multiple dimensions. Already, entities are gathering in the spaces between, drawn to the disruption he represents. "Dangerous entities?" Goku asked, though he already knew the answer. "Some, yes. The void harbors beings that feed on dimensional disturbances, parasites of reality itself. They will be drawn to you, vessel. And through you, to this world." Another woman might have delivered this dire warning with gravity or alarm. Arya spoke with the dispassionate clarity of one stating simple natural law, neither threatening nor reassuring, merely informing. "Can you help stabilize the energy inside me?" Goku asked directly. The pain was intensifying with each passing minute, reality warping more dramatically around him during each surge. "That is not my purpose," Arya replied. "I am here to observe and, if necessary, seal the breach you represent, even if doing so requires your elimination." Chi-Chi gasped. "You can't just. The welfare of one being, even one world, is insignificant calm. Paired to maintaining dimensional integrity," Arya continued, unmoved. "However, there may be alternatives worth exploring before such measures become necessary." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Voss and Bulma, their aircraft touching down at the meadow's edge. Mechanical equipment filled the cargo hold, complex arrays of technology that Goku recognized only vaguely as advanced scientific instruments. Almost simultaneously, Kala and Gohan descended from the mountains, the young half-Saiyan carrying a basket filled with rare alpine plants. Kala's expression darkened upon seeing Arya. "A boundary custodian," she noted with obvious displeasure. "I might have known the cosmic bureaucracy would involve itself." Arya turned her Aurora eyes toward the Saiyan woman. "Kala of the Forgotten Line. Your escape from temporal stasis was unexpected." "Many things about me are unexpected," Kala replied coolly, "including my knowledge of matters the Concilium prefers to keep hidden." The tension between them was palpable, representatives of fundamentally opposed approaches to cosmic order. Goku sensed ancient conflicts underlying their exchange, philosophical differences that transcended personal animosity. Dr. Voss, practical as ever, interrupted the standoff. "Fascinating as this metaphysical debate surely is, our subject is rapidly approaching critical instability." She gestured to her equipment. "I suggest we focus on practical intervention." As if to emphasize her point, another energy surge tore through Goku, stronger than any previous. The ground beneath him cracked open, revealing glowing magma far below the surface. The sky above darkened as if in response, unnatural clouds forming in spiraling patterns centered directly over his position. "The deterioration is accelerating," Arya observed. "We have perhaps an hour before containment becomes impossible." "Then let's stop wasting time," Kala snapped, turning to Gohan. "Prepare the herbs as I showed you. Crush the azure leaves with the white roots, but keep the red berries separate until the final stage." While Gohan began this work, drive, Voss and Bulma rapidly assembled their equipment in a circle surrounding Goku. Complex arrays of sensors, energy modulators, and quantum stabilizers formed an intricate technological mandala on the valley floor. These devices will attempt to synchronize with your energy's oscillation pattern, Dr. Voss explained as she calibrated delicate instruments. Once we identify the specific frequency of instability, we can generate a counter-harmonic field to dampen the fluctuations. While her machines address the physical manifestations, my rituals will realign the spiritual dissonance, Kala added, spreading a circle of crushed herbs around the technological array. The ancient Saiyans understood that energy and consciousness are inseparable aspects of the same fundamental reality. Arya watched these preparations with detached interest. Your approaches have merit, though neither addresses the fundamental dimensional breach. Still, stabilization would allow time for more permanent solutions to be explored. Chi-Chi, having no specialized knowledge to contribute, remained steadfastly by Goku's side despite the increasingly dangerous energy fluctuations. You can do this, she told him with quiet certainty. You've overcome impossible odds before. Goku tried to smile through the pain, touched by her faith even as he questioned whether this challenge could be overcome through willpower alone. The energy within him felt increasingly foray. GN, less an extension of his own power and more an independent entity using his body as a temporary vessel. The harmonizer array is online, drive, Voss announced, initiating her equipment. Subtle vibrat ions filled the air as the machines generated counter-frequencies to Goku's unstable energy. Simultaneously, Kala began a low, rhythmic chant in Ancient Saiyan, her voice weaving through the mechanical hum of the scientific equipment. She moved in precise patterns around the circle, placing specific herbs at cardinal points while trailing aromatic smoke from bundled incense. For a moment, the combined approach seemed to be working. The visible fluctuations in Goku's aura steadied, the random energy surges diminishing in frequency and intensity. He felt a tentative equilibrium establishing itself within his transformed body. It's stabilizing, drive, Voss reported, eyes fixed on her instruments. The quantum fluctuation rate is decreasing by 20%, 30%. The spiritual harmonics are aligning as well, Kala confirmed, her star-filled eyes perceiving patterns invisible to the others. The vessel is integrating the disparate energy streams. Arya, however, showed no satisfaction. Something approaches, she stated suddenly, looking skyward. The disturbance has attracted attention from beyond the seventh boundary. As she spoke, the darkened sky split open along an invisible seam. Unlike the controlled dimensional passage Arya had used, this was a violent tearing of reality itself, ragged edges of space-time peeling back to reveal a void of absolute emptiness. From this nothingness emerged a figure that defied conventional description, humanoid in basic structure but composed of shifting darkness rather than physical matter. Where features should exist, air were only deeper concentrations of void, suggesting rather than defining a face. Void Herald, Arya identified the entity, her serene demeanor finally showing cracks of concern. A scout for the hollow confluence. What is it here for? Bulma demanded, backing away from the unsettling manifestation. Me, Goku answered with sudden certainty. He could feel the entity's focus, a cold, alien attention fixed exclusively on the energy he contained. It's drawn to the spirit bomb's power. The dimensional stability they'd briefly achieved collapsed under this new pressure. Pain lanced through Goku as the energy within him resonated with the Void Herald's presence, surging violently against his control. The harmonic balance is destabilizing again, drive, Voss reported urgently, adjusting her equipment to compensate. Something about that entity is amplifying the fluctuations. Of course it is, Kala snarled, intensifying her ritualistic movements. Void Heralds feed on dimensional instability. Its mere presence is catalyzing the very reaction it seeks to consume. The entity drifted closer, its form rippling like black smoke against the mountain sky. It made no sound, launched no attack, yet its approach alone intensified Goku's pain to nearly unbearable levels. We need to drive it back, Gohan said, stepping forward with determination. Before it gets any closer to Dad. Conventional attacks will be ineffective against a non-material entity, Arya warned. It exists partially outside your dimensional framework. Despite this warning, Gohan launched himself upward, gathering ki for an attack. The Void Herald seemed to register his approach with mild interest, a ripple passing through its amorphous form that might have been the equivalent of turning its attention. With a gesture more dismissive than defensive, the entity released a pulse of anti-energy that struck Gohan mid-flight. The young half-Saiyan dropped from the sky like a stone, his ki completely neutralized. Gohan! Chi-Chi cried out, running to where her son had fallen. The Void Herald resumed its approach toward Goku, apparently registering Gohan's attack as insignificant. Each meter it advanced intensified the resonance between its void nature and the destabilizing energy within Goku, accelerating the process they had been trying to contain. The counter-harmonics aren't sufficient, Drive. Voss reported grimly, her instruments showing rapidly deteriorating readings. We need something stronger, something that can address the dimensional aspect directly. There may be a way, Arya said after a moment's contemplation. But it requires cooperation between approaches that are fundamentally opposed. She turned to Kala. Your ancient Saiyan rituals include techniques for transferring energy between vessels, do they not? The Saiyan woman narrowed her star-filled eyes. They do. Though I fail to see how that helps our current situation. And your technology, Arya continued, addressing Drive. Voss can generate specific energy frequencies with precise modulation. Yes, within certain parameters, the scientist confirmed, beginning to understand the direction of Arya's thinking. Then perhaps, Arya suggested, we can create a temporary alternative vessel, a decoy that will draw the Herald away while stabilizing the original integration. The plan crystallized rapidly between the three women, each contributing expertise from wildly different knowledge traditions. Dr. Voss reprogrammed her equipment to generate a specific energy signature matching the resonance pattern of the spirit bomb's power. Kala adapted her ritual to facilitate controlled transfer rather than mere stabilization. Arya provided the dimensional knowledge necessary to ensure the process wouldn't simply create a second, equally dangerous breach. The concept is sound, Drive. Voss acknowledged as they worked, but we need an enormous power source to make it viable, something that can sustain the decoy signet. You're long enough to draw the Herald completely away. I can provide that, came a new voice from the edge of the valley. All eyes turned to see a woman standing alone among the trees. She appeared young, perhaps in her early 20s, with features that marked her clearly as native to Earth's mountainous regions. Long black hair framed a face of quiet determination, her simple clothing suggesting a life close to nature rather than modern conveniences. Yet something in her bearing suggested age and wisdom far beyond her apparent years. The staff she carried was ancient wood, carved with symbols had matched those Kala had used in her ritual circle. Who are you? Goku asked, sensing something familiar in her energy signature despite never having met her before. I am Kaya, she replied, approaching without fear despite the chaos surrounding them. Last of the spirit mediums of these mountains. She looked directly at Goku, her dark eyes seeing beyond his physical form to the energy struggling within. And you are the vessel spoken of in our oldest prophecies. Another conveniently timed arrival, Vegeta remarked sarcastically, having joined them from the lookout after sensing the dimensional disturbance. Is anyone else planning to appear dramatically and claim ancient knowledge? Kaya ignored the Saiyan prince's skepticism. I felt the awakening 3 days ago, a disturbance in the spirit world unlike anything recorded in our histories. The ancestors guided me here. She turned to Arya. Your plan can work, custodian. My people have maintained the ancient connection to the spirit realm since before recorded history. I can channel the necessary power through the sacred sites hidden within these mountains. The girl speaks truth, Kala confirmed reluctantly. I sense the old energy patterns in her, similar to techniques known to ancient Saiyans before we focused exclusively on combat power. As they spoke, the Void Herald continued its inexorable approach, now less than 50 meters from Goku. The pain of resonance had become so intense that he could barely remain standing, each surge of energy threatening to tear his body apart at the molecular level. We need to act now, Drive. Voss urged, making final adjustments to her equipment. The destabilization is approaching critical threshold. With remarkable efficiency, the 4 women, scientist, Saiyan elite, cosmic custodian, and spirit medium, integrated their disparate approaches into a coherent intervention. Kaya positioned herself at the northern point of their improvised array, driving her staff into the G round where it began drawing energy upward from deep within the mountain. The sacred nexus points have stood here for 10,000 years, she explained, her voice taking on a resonant quality as she connected with these ancient energies. My ancestors built their shrines atop natural convergence points in Earth's spiritual network. Dr. Voss's machines hummed with increasing intensity as they sighed, synchronized with this unexpected power source. Kala's ritual circle glowed with ethereal light as the crushed herbs combusted spontaneously, releasing aromatic smoke that seemed to move with purpose rather than natural air currents. Arya positioned herself directly between Goku and the approaching Void Herald. Begin the transfer, she instructed, her form becoming increasingly translucent as she channeled her own boundary maintaining energies into the process. Goku felt the change immediately, a carefully controlled drawing forth of the volatile energy within him. Unlike the chaotic surges he'd been experiencing, this was a deliberate, patterned extraction that maintained the essential structure of the spirit bomb's power while transferring it into the combined receiver they had created. Pain diminished incrementally as pressure released from his overloaded system. Simultaneously, a new energy construct took shape in the center of their array, a swirling sphere of power that precisely mimicked the signature of the spirit bomb he had absorbed, yet existed independently. The Void Herald stopped its advance, attention diverted to this new phenomenon. For a moment it seemed to hesitate, sensing the decoy yet unable to determine why its target had apparently divided. It's working, Drive, Voss reported, monitoring her instruments. The entity is responding to the decoy signature. Maintain focus, Kala warned as she continued her ritual movements. The transfer is only partially complete. Any disruption now would catastrophically destabilize both vessels. The delicate blank of their improvised solution held for several tense minutes as energy continued flowing from Goku into the artificial construct. The Void Herald drifted closer to the decoy, apparently deciding it presented the more concentrated source of the power it sought. Then, without warning, the dimensional tear widened further. Two more entities emerged, larger, more defined Void Heralds that radiated a level and purpose more clearly than the scout that had preceded them. The confluence has committed additional resources, Arya observed grimly. They sense the deception. We need more time, Kaya insisted, her slight form trembling with the effort of channeling Earth's spiritual energies. The transfer is only at 60% completion. Time is something we don't have, Piccolo growled, sweet. PP-ing forward with Vegeta and the other Z fighters who had arrived from the lookout. We'll hold them off, somehow. No, Goku said, straightening despite the continuing pain. I need to do this myself. You can't risk using your power. Kala objected sharply. Any application of the absorbed energy will accelerate the destabilization exponentially. I know, Goku acknowledged. But I still have my own power, the strength that was mine before I absorbed the spirit bomb. With concentrated effort, he separated his natural ki from the cosmic energy being transferred from his body. The distinct Qian was increasingly clear to him now, his own life force, shaped by years of training and transformation, versus the vast collective energy he had temporarily contained. Drawing exclusively on his personal power, Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan. The golden aura erupted around him, distinct and separate from the multicolored luminescence of the absorbed spirit bomb energy. Keep the transfer going, he instructed the four women. I'll buy you the time you need. Before anyone could object, he launched himself toward the newly arrived Void Heralds. Fighting non-material entities required adjustments to conventional battle tactics. Goku discovered that direct ki blasts passed through their amorphous forms with minimal effect, but physically charged attacks, fists and feet wreathed in concentrated Super Saiyan energy, could disrupt their structural integrity. The larger heralds responded with greater sophistication than the scout had shown against Gohan. They attacked not with direct force but by projecting fields of anti-energy that threatened to neutralize Goku's Super Saiyan transformation on contact. The battle became a complex dance of approach and withdrawal, Goku striking precisely at vulnerable points in their constantly shifting forms while avoiding areas of concentrated void. Each successful hit dispersed portions of the entities into scattered darkness that slowly reformed, buying precious seconds for the energy transfer to continue. Through it all, Goku maintained strict separation between his personal power and the spirit bomb energy still being drawn from him. The discipline required was intense, like trying to keep oil and water separate while both were being violently stirred. 70% transfer complete, drive. Voss called out, monitoring the process from her instruments. 80%. Quote. The Void Heralds seemed to sense their diminishing window of opportunity. They abandoned individual attacks and began moving in coordinated patterns, attempting to outmaneuver Goku and reach the transfer array directly. Recognizing their strategy, Goku concentrated his Super Saiyan power to maximum intensity, creating a barrier of pure ki between the entities and the four women maintaining the transfer process. The effort pushed his already taxed system to its limits, sweat pouring down his face as he held the line through sheer determination. 95%. Came drive. Voss's update. Almost there. In a final, desperate effort, all three Void Heralds merged into a single, massive entity that towered over the valley floor. This combined form charged Goku's defensive barrier with concentrated anti-energy, creating a point of absolute nullification that began eating through his Super Saiyan aura like acid through paper. Complete. Dr. Voss announced triumphantly. Transfer at 100%. Now, Arya, Kala shouted. The boundary custodian raised both hands toward the artificial energy construct they had created, the perfect decoy containing virtually all of the spirit bomb's power that had been causing Goku's instability. With a gesture more symbolic than physical, she opened a controlled dimensional passage directly beside it. The passage leads to an uninhabited pocket dimension, she explained as the rift stabilized. One specifically designed to contain and gradually disperse excess energy. Kaya channeled a final surge through her staff, imparting momentum to the energy construct that sent it floating purposefully toward the dimensional opening. As it moved, it pulsed with increasing brightness, deliberate, why drawing the attention of the Void Heralds. The combined entity hesitated, sensing a more concentrated source of the energy it sought. Its assault on Goku's barrier paused as it recalculated priorities. That moment of hesitation was enough. The decoy construct passed through Arya's dimensional passage, radiating irresistible attraction to entities that fed on such power. The massive combined Hera LD abandoned its attack on Goku and surged toward the opening, unwilling to lose such a feast. Close it now, Piccolo shouted as the entity began passing through the rift. Not yet, Arya countered with perfect calm. We must ensure the entity commits fully to the pursuit. Seconds stretched like hours as the Void Herald passed completely into the pocket dimension, drawn by the decoy energy construct. Only when the last wisps of its darkness had vanished did Arya seal the passage with a decisive gesture, collapsing the dimensional opening as if it had never existed. Silence fell across the mountain valley. The unnatural clouds dissipated, allowing sunlight to once again warm the alpine meadow. Goku released his Super Saiyan transformation, dropping to one knee in exhaustion. Is it over? Chi-Chi asked tentatively, still supporting Gohan who had recovered consciousness but remained weakened from the Herald's attack. Dr. Voss consulted her instruments. Readings show negligible dual spirit bomb energy remaining in his system. Less than 2% of the original absorption. Enough to maintain the connection without causing instability, Kala added, studying Goku with her star-filled eyes. You'll retain some of the awareness and abilities, but without the risk of dimensional collapse. Goku took stock of his condition. The pain had subsided entirely. His perception remained expanded beyond normal human or Saiyan capacity, but no longer threatened to overwhelm his sense of self. The subtle luminescence of his skin had diminished to a barely perceptible glow visible only in shadow. The immediate crisis is averted, Arya acknowledged, her form already becoming more translucent as she prepared to return to her duties. But this is merely the first incursion. The boundaries between dimensions have been weakened by these events. Others will come, drawn by the residual energy signature you still carry. Let them come, Vegeta said with characteristic bravado. We've handled worse. No, you haven't, Kala contradicted him flatly. The Void Heralds were merely opportunistic feeders. There are intelligences in the spaces between dimensions with purposes far more sinister than consumption. Then we'll be ready for them too, Goku said, rising to his feet with renewed determination. The ordeal had changed him, not just physically and energetically, but in His understanding of the cosmos and his place within it. The naive martial artist who had faced Frieza on Namek was gone, replaced by something both more and less than he had been. "I'll help you prepare," Kala offered, surprising everyone with the uncharacteristic generosity. "The ancient Saiyan techniques I preserved will be useful against interdimensional threats. And my instruments can be calibrated to provide early warning of dimensional incursions." Voss added, already making notes for improvements to her detection systems. "The spirit shrines in these mountains were built for a purpose," Kaya said quietly. "My ancestors foresaw this time. I will share their knowledge to help fortify Earth's natural defenses." Arya regarded them all with something approaching approval. P.S. This world has more resources than I anticipated. Her form became increasingly transparent as she spoke. "I will monitor the situation from my station at the 7th boundary. The Concilium will be interested in these developments." With that cryptic statement, she faded completely from view, returning to her dimensional post without further ceremony. Goku turned to Chi-Chi, uncertainty in his expression. The question he'd avoided earlier still hung between them. Could he return to their simple life in the mountains? Should he even try, knowing what threats might follow him? "I meant what I said before," Chi-Chi told him, reading the question in his eyes. "Whatever you've become, you're still my Goku." She took his hand without hesitation, her touch grounding him more effectively. "And any spiritual technique or scientific procedure. We'll figure this out together." As the sun began setting behind the western peaks, casting long shadows across the valley floor, Goku looked around. At the unlikely allies gathered by Crisis, the ancient Saiyan elite, the brilliant human scientist, the quiet spirit medium, his loyal friends and family. Each represented a different approach to understanding the cosmos. Yet all had proven necessary to overcome this first challenge. He sensed more clearly than ever that this was only the beginning. The spirit bomb's energy had changed him in ways that would continue to unfold in the days and years ahead. New threats would emerge from the weakened dimensional boundaries. New allies might appear as well. The residual connection to cosmic energy allowed him a brief glimpse of potential futures branching outward like tributaries of a mighty river, some dark with conflict, others bright with possibility, all flowing from this pivotal moment. Nothing remained certain amid the vast uncertainty. He would face whatever came next not as the isolated hero he had often been in the past, but surrounded by a growing circle of companions whose Earth's strengths created something more powerful than any individual could become alone. As that understanding settled within him, the last traces of instability in his transformed energy finally harmonized. The journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time since absorbing the spirit bomb, Goku felt truly ready to embrace what he had become. "Let's go home," he said simply. "Tomorrow will bring challenges enough." Together, they left the valley as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, distant suns whose light had traveled across the void to reach them, much like the connections that had drawn each of them to this place and time. The cosmos watched, and waited. Chapter 2. Cosmic Convergence. Dawn painted the mountain cottage in watercolor strokes of amber and gold. 3 weeks had passed since the valley confrontation, and an uneasy calm had settled over the Sun family home. Goku sat cross-legged on the flat stone behind the house, eyes closed, body perfectly still save for the barely perceptible rise and fall of his chest. The residual cosmic energy within him pulsed in time with his heartbeat, a constant reminder of his transformation. Chi-Chi watched from the kitchen window, wooden spoon suspended mid-stir above a pot of morning rice porridge. Steam caressed her face as she studied her husband's silhouette against the rising sun. He hadn't moved for 6 hours. "Is Daddy still doing his special training?" Gohan asked, setting the breakfast table with careful precision. Chi-Chi resumed stirring. "He calls it harmonizing, not training." The spoon made deliberate circles through the thickening porridge, her movements betraying the tension she tried to keep from her voice. "Dr. Voss says it's necessary to maintain stability in his new energy pattern." "And the others?" Gohan placed the last bowl exactly 1 thumb width from the edge of the table, a habit inherited from his studies. "They'll be here at noon." Chi-Chi tapped the spoon twice against the pot's rim before setting it aside. "All of them." The slight emphasis on all spoke volumes about her complicated feelings regarding their new situation. The Sun home had become an unlikely nexus of interdimensional research and preparation, with a rotating cast of visitors whose presence had irrevocably altered their once simple life. Outside, Goku's consciousness drifted through layers of reality most beings never perceived. His awareness expanded outward in concentric rings, first encompassing the mountain, then the region, continent, planet, solar system, and beyond. At each level, he perceived the intricate patterns of energy that constituted existence itself, the quiet hum of photosynthesis in nearby pines, the electrical signals firing through the neural networks of creatures large and microscopic, the gravitational dance of celestial bodies, and the subtle vibrations of spacetime where dimensional boundaries grew thin. Dr. Voss had named this state macro-consciousness. Kala called it ancestral sight. Kaya referred to it as spirit walking. Goku simply thought of it as listening to the universe. A whisper of wrongness rippled through his expanded awareness, something subtle yet unmistakable. Like a single dissonant note in a cosmic symphony. Far to the east, near Central City, reality showed microscopic fractures in its normally seamless fabric. Goku's eyes opened. The otherworldly luminescence that had once suffused his entire body now manifested only in his irises, rings of shifting light surrounding his natural dark pupils. He rose in a single fluid motion and walked toward the house. "Something's happening," he announced as he stepped through the doorway. "East of here, small dimensional disturbance." Chi-Chi handed him a bowl of porridge without breaking stride in her morning routine. "Dangerous." "Not yet." Goku accepted the food gratefully, his expression warming as their fingers briefly touched. Despite all that had changed, his appetite remained gloriously constant. "But worth investigating before the others arrive." She nodded, long accustomed to the rhythms of crisis that defined life with Earth's primary defender. "Take Gohan with you. He needs the practical experience." This pragmatic acceptance, so different from her once reflexive protectiveness toward their son, was perhaps the most profound change the spirit bomb incident had catalyzed in their relationship. Chi-Chi had faced the new cosmic reality with characteristic determination, channeling her protective instincts into preparation rather than denial. "You've been practicing the perception techniques Drive. Voss showed you?" Goku asked Gohan between mouthfuls of porridge. The boy's face brightened. "Yes, I can maintain the quantum visualization for almost 12 minutes now." "Good. You'll need it today." Goku finished his meal with impressive speed, then placed one hand on his son's shoulder. "Ready?" Gohan nodded eagerly. "Ready." Without further preamble, father and son simply vanished. No dramatic flash, no sound effect, merely the sudden absence of their physical forms as Goku's enhanced spatial perception allowed him to slip between the conventional boundaries of location. Chi-Chi continued washing dishes, unfazed by their abrupt departure. 3 weeks of witnessing such phenomena had recalibrated her threshold for the extraordinary. Half a world away, Goku and Gohan materialized atop a skyscraper overlooking Central City's bustling financial district. Morning commuters flowed through the streets below, unaware of the two figures observing from above or the invisible anomaly developing in their midst. "Can you sense it?" Goku asked quietly. Gohan closed his eyes, concentrating on the specialized awareness techniques he'd been learning. "I think so. It's like static, or maybe TV snow. But felt instead of seen." "Good description." Goku nodded approvingly. "What Drive Voss calls dimensional friction. Two realities rubbing against each other where the boundaries grown thin." They watched as the disturbance manifested visually. Not dramatic enough for ordinary humans to notice, but unmistakable to their enhanced perception. Heat mirage like P.P.Less appeared approximately 15 meters above a busy intersection, distorting the space in subtle pulses. "Is something trying to come through?" Gohan asked. "Not exactly." Goku's expression reflected both concentration and curiosity. "It's more like information bleeding across. Almost like a transmission." The distortion intensified, now resembling a soap bubble stretched to impossible thinness. Inside this dimensional membrane, shadowy forms shifted, suggestions of movement rather than definite entities. "We should call Drive Voss," Gohan suggested, reaching for the specialized communication device she had provided for precisely such situations. Goku placed a restraining hand over his son's. "Wait." His eyes narrowed, the luminescent rings brightening as he focused his expanded perception. There's something familiar about this pattern. Without warning, the dimensional bubble pulsed violently, once, twice, 3 times, then collapsed inward upon itself. Where the distortion had been, a small object now hung suspended in midair for a brief moment before gravity asserted its dominion. The object, metallic and roughly spherical, plummeted toward the crowded intersection below. Gok, you moved faster than human perception could track. One instant he stood beside Gohan, the next he hovered 15 meters above the street, the mysterious object cradled carefully in his hands. No one below noticed. The city continued its morning rhythm, oblivious to both the dimensional anomaly and its physical aftermath. Gohan joined his father, using the flight techniques that had once seemed so extraordinary but now registered as merely the most basic application of energy manipulation. What is it? Goku examined the object with more than just visual inspection. His enhanced perception allowed him to sense its internal structure, the materials that composed it, and the faint energy signature that hummed through its circuitry. It's a recording device, he concluded, turning it carefully between his fingers. But like nothing I've seen before. The technology is wrong. Wrong how? Gohan studied the sphere with scientific curiosity inherited from his mother's side. Not from our reality. Goku indicated subtle details in its construction, angles that seemed to shift when not directly observed, materials that appeared simultaneously metallic and organic. Dr. Voss would say TS quantum structure as phase shifted from our dimensional frequency. A small depression on the sphere's surface caught Goku's attention. Without hesitation, he pressed it. The air before them shimmered red as a holographic projection materialized, not merely visual but somehow tangible, as if composed of particularly fine mist. The image resolved into a humanoid figure whose features kept shifting slightly, making exact identification impossible. Vessel. The projection addressed Goku directly, its voice modulating between masculine and feminine tones. Your transformation has been noted by the Concilium. The breach you represent cannot be ignored, but neither can your potential value. Arya's assessment suggests alternatives to standard containment protocols. The Concilium requires direct evaluation. Coordinates follow. A series of multidimensional mathematical formulas flashed briefly within the hologram, spatial designations far more complex than standard 3-dimensional locations. A formal invitation, Goku murmured as the projection dissipated, leaving no trace of its presence. Interesting. The Concilium. Gohan's brow furrowed in concentration. That's what Arya mentioned, right? The organization that monitors cosmic energy. Goku nodded. Kala called them cosmic bureaucrats. Didn't sound like a compliment. He tucked the sphere carefully into his GI. Let's head back. This changes our noon meeting considerably. With a thought, they vanished from Central City, reappearing instantly in the mountain cottage's small living room, now considerably more crowded than when they'd left. All 4 women had arrived early. Dr. Lena Voss hunched over the dining table, which had disappeared beneath an array of sophisticated equipment. Her auburn hair was twisted into a messy bun secured by what appeared to be 2 pencils, her lab coat wrinkled from extended wear. The temporal subharmonics are intensifying, she announced without looking up from her instruments. Say, 17% increase since yesterday's measurement. Kala stood by the window, arms crossed over her ceremonial armor. The traditional Saiyan attire, which she insisted predated the battle suit's popularized during Frieza's reign, featured interlocking plates emblazoned with symbols representing ancient Saiyan philosophical concepts. Her star-filled eyes narrowed at Goku's sudden appearance. You've encountered something, she stated flatly. Your energy signature is disturbed. Kaya sat cross-legged on a cushion in the corner, her spirit medium staff balanced across her knees. Unlike the others, she acknowledged their arrival with a gentle smile. The ancestors whispered of movement between worlds this morning. Their voices were curious, not fearful. Arya materialized last, her translucent form solidifying gradually beside the stone hearth. The boundary custodian's presence in the physical realm had become increasingly commonplace as dimensional stability continued deteriorating worldwide. The Concilium has made contact, she said, the statement more confirmation than question. Goku withdrew the sphere from his GI, setting it carefully on a clear space at the edge of Dr. Voss's equipment array. How did you know? Quote, probability calculation. Arya moved with fluid grace to examine the device. Recent transdimensional activity has exceeded standard observation protocols. Direct intervention was statistically inevitable. Dr. Voss immediately abandoned her previous work, eyes lighting with scientific excitement behind her wire-rimmed glasses. Extraordinary. She reached for specialized scanning tools. A genuine extra-dimensional artifact manifested through quantum displacement rather than conventional matter transfer. A monitoring device, Kala corrected with evident disdain. The Concilium watching from their lofty perch while lesser beings handle the actual problems. Kaya rose fluidly, approaching the sphere with respectful caution. It carries multiple energetic imprints. Not merely a messenger but a key. Chi-Chi, who had been quietly preparing tea during this exchange, placed cups before each visitor with practiced hospitality that belied the strang. Ines of entertaining interdimensional beings and cosmic specialists in her kitchen. Should we be concerned about this Concilium? 5 sets of eyes turned toward Arya, recognizing her authority on this particular subject. The boundary custodian's expression remained unreadable. The multiversal Concilium oversees dimensional integrity across all planes of existence. Neither benevolent nor malevolent by human standards, merely concerned with cosmic equilibrium. Bureaucrats with unlimited power, Kala elaborated, her voice sharp with old resentment. They observe, categorize, and occasional. Why eliminate anomalies that threaten their precious balance? And I'm one such anomaly, Goku concluded calmly. The revelation carried no emotional charge, merely another factor to consider in their evolving situation. You represent an unprecedented case, Arya corrected. The absorption of purified multi-source energy without dimensional collapse contradicts established cosmological principles. By all theoretical models, your physical form should have disintegrated instantly. Dr. Voss adjusted her glasses, excitement overriding her usual social reserve. Which makes you the single most valuable research subject in multiversal history. The implications for energy integration theory alone are revolutionary. You are not a laboratory specimen, Kakarot, Kala snapped, using Goku's Saiyan birth name with deliberate emphasis. The Concilium's interest is never purely academic. They seek either to control or neutralize what they don't understand. The invitation suggests evaluation, not elimination, Kaya observed quietly, her fingers tracing symbols in the air above the sphere. They could have sent executioners rather than messengers. Gohan, who had been listening intently to this exchange, spoke with the directness of youth. So what do we do? Accept their invitation. A contemplative silence settled over the group. Goku closed his eyes briefly, extending his awareness out. Hard to assess the broader cosmic situation. The dimensional fractures he'd been monitoring for weeks showed continuing deterioration. Subtle weakening of reality's fabric occurring globally but concentrated around specific nexus points. We don't have the luxury of refusing, he concluded, opening his eyes. The luminescent rings around his pupils pulsed with increased intensity. If what we've been detecting is accurate, dimensional integrity is failing faster than our countermeasures can address. Dr. Voss nodded vigorously. My latest calculations estimate complete boundary failure at multiple localized points within 68 days. After that, incursions like the Void Heralds will become statistically inevitable, and at greater magnitude. The spirit shrines can temporarily reinforce natural dimensional anchors, Kaya added. But many have deteriorated through centuries of neglect. Permanent stabilization requires resources beyond Earth's current capacity. Chi-Chi placed her hand on her husband's shoulder. A grounding touch amidst theoretical abstractions. If the Concilium can help prevent more of those things from coming through, we should at least hear what they have to say. Goku covered her hand with his own, drawing strength from the simple human connection. Despite his expanded awareness and cosmic perception, such moments of ordinary intimacy had become singly precious, anchors to his humanity amidst the vast ocean of universal consciousness that constantly beckoned. The coordinates provided are for a nexus location, Arya explained, examining the complex mathematical formulas that had appeared in the holographic message. A point where multiple dimensions naturally intersect. Going there would allow direct communication with the Concilium without requiring them to fully manifest in our reality. Which means they're keeping a safe distance, Kala observed cynically. Typical. When? Goku asked simply. The dimensional alignment necessary for transit will occur in approximately 14 hours, Arya calculated. The location corresponds to what you call the Arctic Circle, a natural thin point between realities due to the planet's magnetic field convergence. Dr. Voss was already packing equipment into specialized containers. I'll need readings during the entire interaction. The scientific opportunity is unprecedented. I'm coming too, Kala declared. Brooking no argument. Someone needs to represent Saiyan interests when the cosmic administrators start making proclamations. Kaya folded her hands quietly. The ancestors speak of this nexus point. Ancient spirits gather there, drawn by the dimensional thinness. I should attend to interpret their wisdom. My presence is required regardless, Arya stated. As regional boundary custodian, I must facilitate the interaction. All eyes turned to Chi-Chi, who had remained silent during this rapid-fire planning session. She met Goku's gaze steadily, her expression resolute. Someone needs to coordinate things here, she said practically. Bulma and the others should be informed. Contingency plans established. The words were pragmatic, but her eyes communicated deeper understanding. This was how she would contribute, by ensuring their foundation remained secure. Goku nodded, profound gratitude flowing between them without need for verbalization. In the weeks since his transformation, their relationship had evolved beyond conventional marriage into something simultaneously more complex and more essential, a partnership of equals facing cosmic uncertainty together. 14 hours, he confirmed. Addressing the assembled group, that gives us time to prepare properly. The Arctic Circle at midnight defied conventional description. Aurora Borealis danced overhead in ribbons of green and violet. But to Goku's enhanced perception, these were merely the visible manifestation of far more complex energy patterns. Magnetic field lines arced and twisted, creating Ural vortices where dimensional boundaries grew permeable. Their small group stood atop a barren ice sheet, the temperature hovering at 40 degrees below zero. Such cold meant nothing to Goku or Kala, whose energy manipulation easily regulated their body temperature. Dr. Voss wore a specialized thermal suit of her own design, while Kaya seemed impervious to the temperature despite her simple CL. Othing, some aspect of her spiritual training allowing her to ignore physical discomfort. Arya, existing partially outside physical reality, remained unaffected by material conditions. The alignment approaches, the boundary custodian announced, her form growing increasingly translucent as she synchronized with the dimensional fluctuations surrounding them. 3 minutes remaining. Dr. Voss activated an array of sophisticated equipment she had arranged in a precise geometric pattern around their position. Holographic displays materialized in the frigid air, showing real-time measurements of energetic fluctuations, quantum variance, and dimensional permeability. Fascinating, she exclaimed, scientific excitement overriding social formality. The dimensional membrane is naturally 78% thinner here than global average. No wonder ancient cultures considered polar regions gateways to other realms. Kala maintained watchful vigilance, her warrior's instincts evident in her positioning slightly forward of the group, ready to intercept any potential threat. The star field patterns of her eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, perceiving aspects of reality invisible to ordinary senses. The Concilium's approach feels administrative, she commented dryly. All protocol, no passion. Typical bureaucratic energy signature. Kaya had planted her spirit medium's staff in the ice, where it now pulsed with subtle luminescence. Her expression reflected deep concentration as she communicated with entities beyond ordinary perception. The local spirits are withdrawing, she reported quietly. They recognize a greater authority approaching and defer accordingly. Goku stood at the center of their formation, calm and centered. The residual cosmic energy within M responded to the location's unique properties, creating a visible aura of shifting luminescence around his form. Unlike his initial, unstable transformation, this manifestation remained under perfect Chi control, a demonstration of the mastery he had achieved through weeks of disciplined harmonization. The air before them shimmered, dimensional fabric thinning to transparency. No dramatic tear or pour. Merely a graceful dissolution of the boundaries between realities. Through this subtle convergence emerged three figures that simultaneously existed and didn't exist within conventional physical parameters. The Concilium representatives defied simple description. They appeared vaguely humanoid, but their forms kept shifting between different states of manifestation, sometimes seemingly solid, other times vaporous or crystalline. Features rearranged themselves continuously, as if physical appearance were merely a courtesy extended to beings constrained by three-dimensional perception rather than their natural state of existence. Vessel, the central figure, addressed Goku, its voice manifesting directly in their minds rather than disturbing the Arctic air. Boundary Custodian Arya, Representative Kala of the Forgotten Line. Knowledge Seeker Voss, Spirit Interpreter Kaya, the Concilium acknowledges your presence. Each being received personalized recognition, suggesting knowledge far beyond what had been conveyed in the initial message. Dr. Voss's instruments recorded dramatic spikes across all measurement parameters as reality itself accommodated these visitors from beyond conventional existence. Goku stepped forward, neither intimidated nor overly impressed by the cosmic entities. His transformed consciousness allowed him to perceive their true nature, vastly ancient beings, whose purpose had become their identity over eons of existence. I understand you wanted to evaluate me, he stated simply, directness being his natural approach regardless of audience. The leftmost Concilium representative shifted, its form briefly resembling a collection of geometric patterns arranged in impossible configurations. The absorption event registered as a Class 7-dimensional anomaly. Standard protocol mandates immediate neutralization. Yet here we stand in conversation, Kala interjected, her tone combining respect with underlying challenge. Suggesting standard protocols have been reconsidered. The rightmost representative's form stabilized momentarily into something almost draconic before dissolving back into shifting patterns. Boundary Custodian Arya's preliminar Y assessment indicated unique properties meriting exception. Your continued existence defies established cosmic principles, the central figure explained, addressing Goku again. The energy you RBED should have either destroyed your physical form instantly or dispersed back to its component sources. Instead, the left representative continued seamlessly, you achieved integration and stabilization through unprecedented means. Means the Concilium wishes to understand, the right representative concluded. Arya stepped forward, her form shifting to more closely match the Concilium representative state of partial manifestation. The vessel represents both anomaly and opportunity. The dimensional deterioration caused by the absorption event continues accelerating, but his unique properties may offer solutions previously unconsidered. Dr. Voss could no longer contain her scientific enthusiasm. His quantum signature exhibits harmonic resonance patterns that actively reinforce dimensional stability when properly aligned. My measurements suggest he's not merely containing the absorbed energy but actively restructuring it into compatible frequencies. The central Concilium representative's form shifted toward her, expressing what might have been interest. Explain your observations, knowledge seeker. What followed was a rapid exchange of increasingly complex theoretical concepts between Drive Voss and the Concilium representatives. The conversation quickly transcended conventional scientific terminology, incorporating multidimensional mathematical principles and quantum relationship theories beyond current Earth science. Throughout this exchange, Goku remained silent, watching with the patient awareness that had become characteristic since his transformation. While He understood the concepts being discussed at a fundamental level through his expanded consciousness, he recognized that Dr. Voss's passionate scientific advocacy served their purposes better than any explanation he might offer. Kaya moved quietly to his side. They fear what they don't understand, she murmured, her spiritual perception reading beneath the Concilium's cosmic formality. But they fear the collapsing boundaries more. Politics transcends dimensions, it seems, Kala added from his other side, her warrior's assessment cutting to the pragmatic core of the situation. They need a solution that preserves both the multiverse and their authority over it. Goku nodded slightly, having reached similar conclusions. The Concilium represented order and established cosmic principles, principles his very existence now contradicted. Yet the accelerating dimensional crisis demanded solutions beyond conventional approaches. The scientific discussion concluded with what appeared to be genuine surprise from the Concilium representatives. their forms briefly stabilizing into more defined shapes before resuming their fluid shifting. Your observations merit consideration, knowledge seeker, the central figure acknowledged. Conventional containment protocols may indeed prove counterproductive in this unique case. The focus of all three representatives returned to Goku. Vessel, direct evaluation is required. Will you permit examination? Goku's eyes narrowed slightly, the luminescent rings brightening with increased focus. What exactly does examination involve? Dimensional resonance testing. The left representative clarified. Non-invasive harmonization to assess your integration stability. Temporary consciousness synchronization, the right representative added. 2. Verify your control parameters and intention structures. Translation. They wanted to look inside his mind and soul to determine whether he represented a threat. Goku considered briefly, then nodded consent. Proceed. Kala stepped forward protectively. Kakarot, the Concilium's examinations are not as benign as they suggest. The process can be disorienting. It's necessary, he replied simply. His transformed awareness had shown him the cascading consequences of continued dimensional deterioration. Billions of lives across multiple realities hanging in precarious balance as cosmic barriers weakened. Personal discomfort meant nothing weighed against such stakes. The Concilium representatives arranged themselves in a triangle formation around Goku. Their shifting forms extended tendrils of pure energy that weren't quite physical, connecting to his aura at precise points. Remain centered, Arya advised from outside the formation. Allow the examination without resistance, but maintain your core identity anchor. The examination began subtly, a gentle resonance that gradually intensified as the Concilium representatives synchronized with Goku's unique energy pattern. Then, without warning, the experience transcended physical sensation entirely. Goku found his consciousness expanded beyond even the heightened awareness he had grown accustomed to since absorbing the spirit bomb. He perceived not merely multiple dimensions but the intricate connective tissue between them, the fundamental structures that maintained separation between realities that were never meant to directly interact. Simultaneously, he experienced the Concilium's vast perspective, entities who had observed the birth and death of entire universes, who maintained the delicate balance between creation and entropy across timescales incomprehensible to mortal beings. They, in turn, experienced his journey, from simple Earth-raised Saiyan to cosmic anomaly. They witnessed his battles, his growth, his transformations both physical and spiritual. Most importantly, they perceived the moment of choice on Namek, the split-second decision to absorb rather than release the spirit bomb's energy, and the profound consequences that followed. Throughout this mutual examination, Goku maintained his essential self, the core identity that remained unchanged despite his transformation. Son Goku. Protector, fighter, father, husband. A being of profound simplicity within cosmic complexity. The examination concluded as suddenly as it had begun. Goku found himself once again standing on Arctic ice beneath dancing auroras. The Concilium representatives withdrawing their energy tendrils with what seemed like uncharacteristic haste. Fascinating, the central figure commented, its form fluctuating more rapidly than before. Unprecedented integration without identity dissolution. The spiritual foundation is remarkably stable, noted the right representative, suggesting compatibility factors previously unconsidered. Yet the dimensional disruption continues accelerating beyond his local influence, the left representative observed. Containment remains problematic. Dr. Voss had been monitoring the entire exchange through her instruments, recording data with feverish intensity. The harmonization readings during synchronization showed 73 unique resonance patterns. This confirms my hypothesis about adaptive quantum signatures. Kaya stepped forward, her expression troubled. The spirits speak of growing shadows. The examination has drawn attention from the spaces between. This statement silenced even the Concilium representatives. All three shifted focus toward the spirit medium with sudden intensity. Clarify your perception, spirit interpreter, the central figure requested, its T1 suggesting greater urgency than previously displayed. Kaya closed her eyes, one hand gripping her staff as it pulsed with increased luminescence. Entities that dwell where dimensions overlap have noticed our gathering. They sense the vessel's unique energy signature. They hunger. Kala moved immediately to a defensive position, her warrior's instincts responding to the warning. The Void Heralds were merely the vanguard. More sophisticated entities were bound to notice eventually. As if summoned by this discussion, the aurora above them began behaving unnaturally, the flowing ribbons of light suddenly coalescing into spiral patterns that rotated with increasing speed. The temperature dropped precipitously, ice crystallizing in the air itself as reality began distorting around them. Dimensional incursion imminent, Arya announced, her form shifting fully into her official boundary custodian aspect, more energy than matter, radiating authority and purpose. Classification: Umbral Leviathan. Threat level: significant. The Concilium representatives moved with unexpected urgency, their forms hardening into more defined shapes as they prepared for confrontation. This location is now compromised. The central figure stated. The examination has created unintended resonance patterns. In simpler terms, Kala translated harshly, they accidentally rang the dinner bell for interdimensional predators. The spiral patterns in the aurora contracted suddenly, forming a precise geometric configuration directly above their position. Through this mathematical perfection emerged song, eating that simultaneously resembled an immense serpent, a storm front, and a tear in reality itself. The umbral leviathan defied conventional perception, parts of its form existed in dimensions beyond normal sight, creating the visual impression of something constantly emerging from itself. Dr. Voss's instruments overloaded instantly, protective circuitry engaging as her displays flashed emergency warnings before shutting down entirely. Energy readings off the charts. It's not fully materializing, just extending a hunting aspect into our dimension. The temperature continued plummeting as the entity's presence distorted local physical laws. Ice beneath their feet cracked and groaned, releasing plumes of absolute darkness rather than water where fissures formed. The Concilium will address this incursion, the central representative announced, the three cosmic administrators arranging themselves in formation beneath the manifesting threat. Their forms solidified further, now resembling armored entities composed of crystalline light. This entity was drawn by the vessel's unique signature, the left representative stated. Containment protocols dictate Concilium intervention. Goku W. Watched the umbral leviathan continue its manifestation with calm assessment rather than fear or excitement. His transformed consciousness perceived the entity's true nature, not evil in any human sense, but fundamentally incompatible with the physical laws that maintained reality's stability. Its presence alone caused accelerating degradation of dimensional integrity. Decision made, he stepped forward, moving past the Concilium representatives despite their evident surprise. I drew it here, he stated simply. I'll handle it. Without waiting for response or permission, Goku ascended rapidly toward the dimensional breach, his aura intensifying as he approached the manifesting entity. The residual cosmic energy within him responded to his focused intent, creating a visible shell of purified power around his form. The umbral leviathan sensed his approach and reacted with predatory focus. Portions of its impossible anatomy shifted toward him, appendages that existed partially in other scions creating the visual impression of reality folding around themselves. Darkness deeper than mere absence of light flowed from the entity in waves of anti-energy capable of unraveling matter at the subatomic level. Goku didn't attempt to dodge or defend in conventional ways. Instead, he employed the harmonization techniques he had mastered during weeks of intensive practice. His aura shifted frequency, adapting to match the entity's dimensional phase but with opposite polarity. Where their energies met, reality stabilized rather than deteriorated further. The principle was similar to noise canceling technology but applied to fundamental cosmic frequencies. Goku became, in effect, a dimensional anchor point, his unique multi-source energy signature creating a stable reference that reinforced local reality against the Leviathan's disruptive presence. The entity recoiled in what might have been surprise, then attacked with greater intensity. Tendrils of void energy lashed toward Goku, from multiple dimensional angles simultaneously, some visible, others perceivable only through his enhanced awareness. Responding with perfect precision, Goku shifted position with movements that transcended conventional physics. He wasn't merely flying but navigating through dimensional interstices, the infinitesimal spaces between moments of time and positions in space. Each void tendril was met with a precisely calibrated energy countermeasure that neutralized its reality-distorting properties. From below, the confrontation appeared as an extraordinary light show, Goku's luminescent formed RT-ing through impossible patterns while darkness coalesced and struck from seemingly random directions. The aurora itself responded to their battle, rippling with sympathetic energy patterns that mirrored the multidimensional conflict. Remarkable adaptation, the Central Concilium representative observed, its tone suggesting genuine surprise. He's applying harmonic counterbalance principles without formal dimensional training. Not counterbalance, drive, Voss corrected, her scientific understanding allowing her to interpret what her damaged instruments could no longer measure. He's creating a localized reality reinforcement field through quantum resonance anchoring. Theoretical physics suggested such approaches but deemed them practically impossible. The ancient Saiyan texts spoke of Leje, Nadari warriors who could dance between worlds, Kala added, her star-filled eyes tracking Goku's movements with professional assessment. We dismissed them as metaphorical rather than literal techniques. Kaya remained focused on her staff, which pulsed in rhythm with the conflict overhead. The ancestors say he walks the spiral path, the journey between what is and what could be. They have Ted one who could navigate this path for many generations. Arya watched with the calculated assessment of one whose entire existence revolved around maintaining dimensional boundaries. His approach is unconventional but effective. The Leviathan cannot fully materialize while he maintains that resonance pattern. The entity seemed to reach similar conclusions. Its attack pattern shifted from dire court confrontation to something more insidious, tentacles of void energy attempting to encircle rather than strike Goku directly. Its strategy became apparent. If it couldn't overwhelm him through force, it would attempt to drag him back through the dimensional breach when it retreated. Goku recognized the tactical shift immediately. Rather than continuing purely defensive harmonization, he gathered energy for a counteroffensive. The technique he employed resembled a Kamehameha in basic structure but fundamentally transformed through his cosmic understanding. Instead of concentrated destructive force, this energy wave carried precisely modulated dimensional frequencies, a harmonized counter-vibration to the Leviathan's own existence pattern. Dimensional harmonic wave, he called out, partly Ram ingrained habit of naming techniques and partly to focus his intent through verbalization. The energy surged from his extended hands in concentric ripples rather than a linear beam, expanding outward in perfect mathematical progression. Where these ripples intersected the umbral Leviathan, they didn't damage the entity so much as recalibrate its dimensional frequency, essentially tuning it out of synchronization with our reality. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The manifesting portions of the Leviathan began phasing back toward their native dimensional frequency, unable to maintain resonance in our reality against the harmonic counter-pressure Goku generated. The entity fought against this forced dimensional realignment, darkness intensifying as it expended vast energy trying to maintain its manifestation. For a moment, the outcome hung in perfect balance, Goku's harmonizing wave against the Leviathan's multidimensional presence. Then, with a final surge of concentrated intent, Goku pushed the frequency modulation beyond the entity's ability to resist. Reality snapped back into proper alignment with an aurora-wide pulse of light. The dimensional breach sealed itself as the umbral Leviathan was forced fully back into its native reality, the mathematical perfection of its entry point dissolving back into natural aurora patterns. Goku descended slowly, his energy expenditure re-evident in slightly labored breathing but otherwise showing no signs of distress from the extraordinary confrontation. He touched down on the ice before the assembled observers, his expression reflecting neither pride nor exhaustion, merely calm assessment of a necessary task completed. The Concilium representatives regarded him with what might have been the cosmic equivalent of reassessment. Higher forms had returned to fluid shifting patterns, crisis protocols apparently deactivated following the threat's removal. Unprecedented application of harmonic principles, the central figure observed. Without formal dimensional training, intuitive adaptation rather than calculated response, the left representative noted. Suggesting capabilities beyond initial classification parameters, the right representative concluded. Goku met their analytical commentary with characteristic directness. The dimensional breaches are getting worse. That entity was just the beginning. Others will follow, drawn to the weakening boundaries. He gestured toward the sky, where his enhanced perception could detect microscopic tears in reality's fabric already beginning to form despite the Leviathan's departure. We need solutions. not evaluations. Dr. Voss stepped forward, her scientific enthusiasm undampened by the recent danger. My calculations suggest we could potentially reverse the degradity on process by establishing harmonic anchor points at key nexus locations worldwide. If Goku's energy signature could be replicated, even partially, through technological means. Impossible, Arya interjected firmly. The vessel's unique properties cannot be artificially duplicated without risking further dimensional destabilization. Not through technology alone, Kaya suggested quietly. But perhaps through combination. The ancient spirit shrines were designed to channel and amplify natural energy patterns. And Saiyan energy projection techniques could potentially extend effective range beyond local influence. Kala added reluctantly, her practical nature overcoming her distrust of collaborative approaches. The three concilium representatives communicated silently between themselves. A complex exchange of multidimensional concepts compressed into microseconds. Then, with evident reluctance, the central figure addressed the assembled group. The concilium acknowledges the unprecedented nature of current circumstances. Standard containment protocols are deemed potentially counterproductive. The cosmic entity's form shifted slightly, suggesting what might have been formal posture. Conditional authorization is granted for localized intervention strategies utilizing the vessel's unique properties, under specified limitations. Translation: Kala whispered to Goku, "There. Letting us try to fix the problem rather than eliminating you outright." Generous of them. The left representative continued, "Boundary custodian Arya will oversee implementation and ensure compliance with dimensional preservation directives. Knowledge seeker Voss will document methodologies and outcomes for concilium review," the right representative added. The central figure's form stabilized briefly, conveying the importance of its final statement. Be aware that authorization remains contingent on measurable improvement in dimensional integrity within one planetary rotation cycle. Failure to demonstrate positive results will necessitate reassessment of containment options. The message was clear. They had one Earth day to prove their approach could work, or the concilium would consider more drastic measures, likely including Goku's containment, as the source of the original disruption. Before anyone could respond to this ultimatum, all three concilium representatives simultaneously dissolved from view, not departing through a portal or dimensional passage but simply ceasing to maintain presence in the physical dimension, returning to whatever higher dimensional space they normally occupied. Typical bureaucratic exit, Kala commented dryly. Deliver demands, then disappear before practical questions can be raised. Arya remained impassive, her role as concilium representative on Earth clearly placing her in a complex position between cosmic authority and practical necessity. The limitations are more generous than standard protocols would dictate. Your demonstration against the umbral Leviathan likely influenced their decision significantly. Dr. Voss was already recalibrating her damaged equipment, scientific mind racing with possibilities. We need to establish precisely which nexus points require immediate stabilization, then design customized harmonic resonators for each location's specific dimensional frequency. The spirit shrines already mark 17 major convergence points across Earth. Kaya offered. My ancestors built them precisely where dimensional fabric naturally thins. And ancient Saiyan energy projection techniques could theoretical. Why amplify the stabilization effect beyond local influence? Kala acknowledged, star-filled eyes narrowed in concentration. Though the specific applications would require adaptation to current circumstances. Goku listened to this rapid exchange of ideas with quiet attentiveness. His transformed consciousness allowed him to perceive the underlying patterns connecting these seemingly disparate approaches, the scientific principles behind spiritual practices, the quantum mechanics underpinning energy projection techniques. Where others saw boundaries between disciplines, he now recognized complementary aspects of the same fundamental reality. We'll need to work together, he stated simply, cutting through theoretical complexity to practical action. Each approach addresses different aspects of the same problem. He turned to Arya. Can you transport us directly to the first nexus point? We shouldn't waste time with conventional travel. The boundary custodian nodded, her form already beginning the subtle shifts that preceded dimensional transit. The nearest major convergence point is located beneath what humans call Stonehenge. Its natural properties make it ideal for initial stabilization efforts. I'll need at least an hour to recalibrate my equipment and prepare portable harmonic resonators, drive. Voss calculated, hands moving with practiced efficiency among her damaged instruments. And I must retrieve specific ritual components from my supply cache, Kala added. Ancient techniques require precise materials. The spirit medium's sanctuary in the western mountains contains necessary ceremonial items. Kaya explained, I can guide us there before proceeding to Stonehenge. Goku nodded, decision made. 1 hour for preparation, then we begin. The clock is running. As the others dispersed to gather their respective tools and materials, he remained momentarily alone on the Arctic ice, gazing upward at the gradually normalizing aurora. His expanded perception CTED, the first umbral leviathan already being joined by others of its kind in the dimensional space adjacent to Earth's reality, predators gathering at the scent of weakness in the cosmic barrier. 1 day to demonstrate their approach could work. 1 day to justify his continued existence in the Concilium's cosmic calculation. 1 day to prevent accelerating incursions that would eventually overwhelm Earth's defenses regardless of individual power levels. For the first time since his transformation, Goku felt the weight of responsibility transcend even his enhanced capabilities. This wasn't a threat that could be defeated through combat prowess or individual heroism. It required something fundamentally different, a harmonization of diverse approaches and perspectives toward a common purpose. As this realization settled within him, the residual cosmic energy in his system pulsed in response, creating a momentary pattern in his aura that mirrored the mathematical perfection briefly glimpsed during the Leviathan's manifestation. The significance wasn't lost on him. Solution and problem sometimes shared fundamental structures, differing only in application and intent. With renewed determination, Goku joined the others in their urgent preparations. Earth had 1 day to prove that cosmic harmony could emerge from apparent chaos. 1 day to demonstrate that an anomaly could become the foundation of a new equilibrium. The ancient stones of Stonehenge cast long shadows under the midday sun, their weathered surfaces hiding dimensional secrets invisible to ordinary perception. Beneath this archaeological wonder, reality itself grew thin. Natural telluric energies creating a convergence point where multiple dimensions brushed against one another like overlapping ripples in a cosmic pond. Goku stood at the precise center of the stone circle, eyes closed as he mapped the invisible energy patterns flowing through this nexus point. The ancient builders had somehow sensed these patterns. Without modern instruments or enhanced awareness, positioning each massive stone at mathematically perfect intervals to channel and stabilize natural dimensional fluctuations. Around him, his unlikely allies prepared their contributions to the stabilization effort. Dr. Voss had established a perimeter of sophisticated equipment, quantum harmonizers, dimensional frequency modulators, and energy amplification arrays connected through a complex web of specialized cabling. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces as she calibrated each device to the precise frequencies Goku reported sensing. The primary dimensional fracture occurs at 7.3 quillionths of a nanohertz, he explained, using terminology drive. Voss had taught him to describe sensations that had no conventional scientific classification. Secondary harmonic distortions at 12.9 and 18.4. Inputting parameters now, she confirmed, the reflection of complex equations mirrored in her wire-rimmed glasses. The resonators should generate counter-frequencies that reinforce dimensional integrity exactly where it's weakening. Kala had established her own ritual space adjacent to the scientific array. Ancient Saiyan symbols drawn with specialized materials formed concentric circles around a central fire pit burning with oddly colored flames. She moved through precise forms that bled martial arts kata but served an entirely different purpose. Energy pattern recognition and amplification rather than combat application. The dimensional distortions match patterns described in the Ancestral Codex, she noted. Her movements never pausing as she spoke. The rituals were designed specifically for stabilizing such fluctuations during ancient Saiyan experimental phases. Kaya work, Ed with quiet efficiency at the edge of the stone circle, preparing her spiritual contribution. Small shrines established at precise cardinal points contained ceremonial items connected by lines of purified salt. Her staff stood vertical at the eastern position, pulsing with subtle energy that responded to the site's natural properties. The earth remembers, she murmured, fingers tracing activation patterns above each shrine. These stones have maintained dimensional harmony for thousands of years. They remember how to heal. Arya observed these preparations from a position slightly above the physical plane. Her form shifting between visibility and translucence as she monitored dimensional metrics invisible even to Goku's enhanced perception. The Concilium will be evaluating effectiveness through subquantum measurement. She informed them. Stabilization must be comprehensive, not merely superficial reinforcement. The implicit warning was clear. This wasn't merely about patching the immediate problem but demonstrating an approach that would satisfy cosmic administrators concerned with fundamental dimensional integrity. Tourists and archaeologists had been temporarily evacuated under pretense of structural assessment, giving them freedom to work without human interference. The dimensional weakening remained imperceptible to conventional senses, no dramatic visual effects or physical manifestations betraying the cosmic significance of their undertaking. Stabilization array ready, drive. Voss announced, final calibrations complete. Her equipment hummed with building energy as capacitors charged and quantum fields aligned. Ritual configuration established. Kala confirmed, taking position at the precise western point of her ceremonial arrangement. Spiritual anchors prepared, Kaya added softly, kneeling at the northern cardinal point of her salt line pattern. Goku opened his eyes, the luminescent rings surrounding his pupils brightening with focused intent. Let's begin. What followed was not a battle but a symphony, 4 distinct approaches harmonizing toward a common purpose. Dr. Voss initiated her technological contribution first. Quantum harmonizers generated precisely calibrated counter frequencies that reinforced dimensional boundaries at their weakest points. The air above Stonehenge shimmered almost imperceptibly as invisible energies began their stabilizing work. Kala's ritual activated next, ancient Saiyan energy manipulation techniques channeling and amplifying the natural dimensional properties of the location itself. The specialized fire at her ritual's center flared with increasing intensity, flames shifting through colors that corresponded to different dimensional frequencies. Kaya's spiritual practice created the third layer of stabilization, connecting the physical location to its multidimensional counterparts through bonds older than human civilization. Her staff pulsed with increasing brightness as ancestral spirits responded to her call, lending their ancient wisdom to the contemporary crisis. At the center of these complementary efforts stood Goku, his unique energy signature serving as the keystone that united all approaches. The residual cosmic energy within him, that small percentage of the spirit bomb that remained integrated with his being, responded to his focused intent. His aura expanded outward in concentric rings, each perfectly calibrated to strengthen a specific aspect of dimensional integrity. Unlike his confrontation with the umbral Leviathan, this wasn't about forcing reality to conform to his will. Instead, Goku served as cosmic facilitator, his transformed consciousness allowing him to perceive how each approach contributed to the whole, adjusting and harmonizing their efforts with subtle precision. Quantum stabilization at 37%, drive. Voss reported, eyes fixed on her instruments. 45%, 58%. The ancestral patterns are responding, Kala observed. Her ritual fire now burning with perfect vertical precision despite the outdoor breeze. Dimensional memory activating within the site itself. The spirits speak of healing, Kaya added, her icicle form seeming almost translucent as she channeled energies beyond ordinary perception. The ancient guardians rejoice. Arya descended to their level, her expression showing the first hint of genuine approval. Dimensional integrity improving at geometric progression. The approach demonstrates unexpected efficiency. As their combined efforts intensified, Goku perceived something extraordinary occurring within the dimensional structure itself. The fractures and weaknesses weren't merely being patched or reinforced, they were being fundamentally reintegrated through a process that resembled healing more than repair. The site was remembering its original, undamaged state and actively participating in its own restoration. It's working with us, he observed with quiet wonder. The dimensional fabric retains memory of its proper configuration. Of course it does, Kaya replied with gentle certainty. Reality itself seeks harmony when given proper guidance. Quantum theory suggests material memory at subatomic levels. Dr. Voss confirmed, scientific excitement evident despite her focus on precise measurements. We're essentially reminding local spacetime of its preferred state. The ancient texts called it, awakening the sleeping guardian, Kala added, centuries-old Saiyan wisdom finding validation in contemporary application. Each significant nexus point contains its AoN defensive properties when properly activated. As their harmonized effort reached maximum intensity, the dimensional fabric above Stonehenge visibly rippled, not in further deterioration but in powerful realignment. To ordinary human perception, this would have registered as nothing more than unusual atmospheric distortion. To Goku's enhanced awareness, it represented dimensional healing on a profound scale. Stabilization at 93%, drive. Voss announced triumphantly. Local dimensional integrity restored to baseline parameters. Arya confirmed this assessment, her form shifting through various sensory modes to verify the results from multiple perspectives. The nexus point is secured. Dimensional permeability has returned to historical norms. The immediate task completed, He gradually deactivated their respective contributions, drive. Voss powering down her equipment, Kala concluding her ritual sequence, Kaya thanking the spiritual entities that had participated in their effort. Goku remained centered, his expanded awareness monitoring the stabilized dimensional boundaries to ensure they maintained integrity without continued intervention. One success, he noted pragmatically. 16 more nexus points to address within our time limit. Dr. Voss consulted her instruments. Based on current degradation rates, we should prioritize the Egyptian pyramid complex next. Its dimensional distortion shows the most rapid deterioration after this location. The Concilium will be monitoring our progress at each site, Arya reminded them, her form already preparing for dimensional transit. Comprehensive stabilization across all major nexus points is required for continued authorization. Kala gathered her ritual materials with practiced efficiency. We've demonstrated proof of concept. Now we need to refine the approach for maximum efficiency. Each site has unique properties, Kaya cautioned, collecting her ceremonial items reverently. What worked here will require adaptation elsewhere. Goku nodded, understanding the challenges ahead. Yet beneath the pragmatic focus, a deeper realization was forming within his expanded consciousness. The complementary nature of their diverse approaches, scientific, warrior, spiritual, and cosmic, represented something beyond mere tactical alliance. In their harmonized effort, he glimpsed a fundamental truth about reality itself. The universe favored integration over isolation, cooperation over dominance. The dimensional boundaries they sought to repair function not as absolute separations but as necessary interfaces between complementary aspects of a greater whole. Perhaps his absorption of the spirit bomb, that unprecedented integration of energy that should have remained separate, wasn't merely an anomaly. Obi contained but a prototype for a new understanding of cosmic harmony. As they prepared for transit to the next location, Goku allowed himself a brief moment of optimism. One nexus point stabilized, 16 more to address within their rapidly diminishing time limit. A monumental task by any standard, yet somehow less daunting now that they had proven their approach viable. The cosmic countdown continued, Earth's dimensional integrity hanging in delicate balance. Yet for the first time since absorbing the spirit bomb, Goku sensed not just challenge but opportunity in the path ahead, a chance to demonstrate that sometimes the most profound solutions emerged from the very anomalies cosmic administrators sought to eliminate. With renewed determination, he joined the others as Arya opened dimensional passage to their next destination. The journey continued, one nexus point at a time, cosmic harmony emerging from unlikely collaboration. Chapter 3. Harmonic Resolution. The Great Pyramid of Giza shimmered in the pre-dawn light, its ancient limestone surface refracting the day's first rays into prismatic patterns invisible to ordinary human perception. Within its massive shadow, Navas meticulously disassembled her quantum harmonizer array, her movements precise despite 36 hours without sleep. 15 stabilized, she murmured, securing delicate components into specialized containment units. Dark circles underlined her hazel eyes, yet they burned with undiminished scientific determination. Only 2 remaining. Nearby, Kala extinguished the ceremonial flames of her ritual circle, the ancient Saiyan symbols etched into Egyptian sand gradually fading as desert winds reclaimed their territory. Unlike the human scientist, the Saiyan elite showed no physical signs of their relentless global effort, her star-filled eyes as sharp as when they began, her movements retaining warrior precision despite the marathon of dimensional work. The Concilium's deadline approaches, she noted, glancing skyward where the constellation Orion hung low on the horizon. 6 hours remaining. Kaya sat cross-legged at the pyramid's base, communing with entities beyond ordinary perception. Her physical form appeared almost translucent in the growing dawn light, spiritual energies flowing through her as she interpreted the ancient site's response to their stabilization efforts. The Guardians here are among the oldest, she whispered, voice carrying complex harmonics that didn't originate entirely from her own vocal cords. They remember when the dimensional boundaries were first established. Goku stood at the pyramid's apex, a solitary figure silhouetted against the lightening sky. His enhanced perception monitored the newly stabilized dimensional fabric surrounding the ancient structure, once a critical failure point, now reinforced through their combined methodology. The luminescent rings around his pupils pulsed in rhythm with the site's natural energy flow. His consciousness simultaneously present in the physical location and aware of its multidimensional counterparts. Arya materialized beside him, her form solidifying gradually as she returned from reporting their progress to the Concilium. Unlike previous transitions, her manifestation appeared strained, requiring visible effort where before she had shifted between states with effortless grace. The dimensional stress increases despite our efforts, she stated without preamble. The Concilium registers anomalous pattern development across stabilized sites. Goku nodded, having sensed this trouble. Development through his own expanded awareness. They're not holding as they should. This represented their first significant setback after an extraordinary sequence of successes. Their harmonize D approach had proven remarkably effective at each nexus point they'd addressed: Stonehenge, Uluru, Mount Fuji, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, and 11 others spanning Earth's ancient power sites. At each location, the combination of scientific instrumentation, Saiyan ritual technique, spiritual communion, and Goku's unique energy signature had restored dimensional integrity to historical norms. Yet now, as they approached completion of their global effort, previously stabilized sites showed disturbing signs of renewed deterioration. It doesn't make sense, Drive. Voss called up from below, having overheard their exchange. Her scientific intuition immediately engaged with the puzzle. The quantum resonance patterns should be self-sustaining once established. Something must be actively counteracting our work. Or someone. Kala amended, her warrior's instinct for identifying opposition asserting itself. These patterns suggest deliberate interference rather than natural degradation. Kaya opened her eyes. The spiritual communion complete. The Guardians speak of shadow fingers reaching through their domains. A will that opposes harmony. Goku descended from the pyramid in a controlled float, landing softly beside his allies. The past day and a half had forged this unlikely team into something approaching synchronicity, each contributing unique perspectives that complemented rather than contradicted the others. What had begun as uneasy alliance had evolved into genuine collaboration. We need more information, he stated simply. The directness that had characterized him before. His transformation remained a core aspect of his evolved consciousness, complex awareness expressed through straightforward action. Dr. Voss was already recalibrating her instruments, fingers dancing across holographic interfaces with practiced precision. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures propagating between stabilized sites. Almost like communication patterns. The dimensional fabric itself doesn't generate communication, Arya observed, her form shifting through various perceptual modes as she attempted to classify the anomaly. These are introduced elements. Kala's star-filled yes narrowed as she studied the pattern's drive. Voss's equipment displayed. They resemble ancient Saiyan battle scripts, energy deployments designed to systematically undermine defensive structures. But who would possess such knowledge? Kaya wondered, her spiritual perception extending beyond the immediate vicinity. The Guardians speak only of darkness with purpose, entropy given will. Goku remained silent, his expanded consciousness processing these observations while simultaneously monitoring the deterioration spreading through previously stabilized sites. The pattern suggested not random degradation but strategic undermining, an intelligence working against their efforts with calculated precision. A troubling conclusion formed within his transformed understanding. We're being countered, he stated with quiet certainty. Everything we do is being observed, analyzed, and systematically reversed. Doctor. Voss looked up sharply from her instruments. That would require technological capabilities far beyond current Earth science. Even my quantum harmonizers represent theoretical applications decades ahead of mainstream understanding. And knowledge of ancient Saiyan energy manipulation that died with planet Vegeta. Kala added, genuine concern creasing her proud features. No living being should possess both. Unless, Kaya began, then hesitated, her spiritual insight suggesting a possibility too troubling to voice without certainty. Unless they exist beyond conventional dimensional constraints, Arya completed the thought, her cosmic perspective allowing her to recognize implications the others approached from different angles. An entity capable of observing across dimensional boundaries would have access to knowledge from multiple realities simultaneously. The implication hung heavy in the pre-dawn air. Such an entity would represent a threat beyond anything they had yet encountered, not merely feeding on dimensional instability like the Umbral Leviathan, but actively orchestrating it for unknown purposes. Goku's decision formed with characteristic clarity. We need to see what's happening from the other side. The others turned to him with varying expressions of surprise and concern. You mean enter the spirit realm directly? Kaya asked, immediately grasping his intention. No physical being has successfully navigated those dimensions and returned unchanged. I'm already changed, Goku replied simply, the luminescent rings around his pupils pulsing with increased intensity. The residual spirit bomb energy creates a natural connection to that realm. I can follow it back to its source. Technically feasible but extraordinarily dangerous. Drive. Voss acknowledged, scientific assessment overriding personal concern. The dimensional transition will require precise harmonic calibration to maintain your physical cohesion during transit. The ancient texts describe warriors who attempted such journeys, Kala added, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. None returned with their identities intact. Most didn't return at all. The Concilium expressly prohibits unauthorized cross-dimensional travel by material beings, Arya stated, though our tone lacked the absolute certainty that would have accompanied such pronouncements weeks earlier. The risks of contamination are considered unacceptable. Goku absorbed these perspectives with the patient integration that had become his hallmark since the transformation. Each represented valid concerns based on specialized knowledge. Yet his expanded consciousness perceived possibilities beyond their individual understanding, pathways accessible through his unique energy signature. I understand the risks, he acknowledged. But something is working against us with knowledge that spans dimensions. We need to understand what we're facing if we're going to counter it effectively. A moment of silence followed as each processed the implications of his proposed course of action. The stabilization of Earth's dimensional integrity, seemingly within reach just hours earlier, now faced systematic undermining by an unknown adversary. Conventional approaches had proven insufficient against such opposition. If you're determined to attempt this, drive, Voss finally said, scientific problem-solving engaging despite her reservations, I could theoretically modify the quantum harmonizers to maintain a tethered connection between dimensions. An energetic lifeline, essentially. My knowledge of ancient Saiyan transitional techniques might provide protective frameworks for your consciousness during the journey, Kala offered. Warrior pragmatism accepting the necessity of risk in strategic situations. I can guide your spirit through the initial transitional layers, Kaya added softly. The ancestors have shown me paths invisible to physical perception. Arya observed this exchange with complex assessment, her duties as boundary custodian conflicting with practical necessity. Finally, shifted her form to its most official aspect. I cannot officially sanction this action. Her tone then modulated subtly. However, my duties require monitoring any unauthorized dimensional transitions. I would be obligated to observe your journey closely. The implied support behind her careful phrasing wasn't lost on any of them. Goku nodded, decision confirmed. We'll proceed immediately. The Concilium's deadline continues regardless of our situation. We'll need a secure location for your physical form during transit, drive. Voss noted, already calculating requirements. Somewhere Nadu. Rally aligned with the dimensional frequencies you'll be navigating. The King's Chamber, Kaya suggested, gesturing toward the Great Pyramid looming above them. It was designed specifically as a transitional space between physical and spiritual dimensions. With methodical efficiency born from their previous collaborations, the unlikely allies prepared for Goku's unprecedented journey. Dr. Voss reconfigured her equipment to create a specialized containment field that would maintain his physical form's dimensional frequency during spiritual transit. Kala prepared protective sigils using ANC, Ion Saiyan techniques designed to preserve identity cohesion during consciousness expansion. Kaya established a spiritual communication framework that would allow limited contact across dimensional boundaries. As dawn fully illuminated the ancient Egyptian landscape, they gathered in the pyramid's central chamber, a space designed millennia earlier for precisely the kind of dimensional work they now undertook. Though its creators could never have anticipated these specific circumstances, Goku lay on the stone sarcophagus at the chamber's center, a position that aligned perfectly with the pyramid's natural energy channels. Dr. Voss's reconfigured quantum harmonizers surrounded him in a precise geometric arrangement, generating an invisible containment field that shimmered faintly to enhanced perception. The tether is established, she confirmed, monitoring holographic displays that tracked his unique energy signature. It should maintain connection regardless of dimensional transition, allowing us to retrieve you if necessary. Kala completed her protective framework, ancient Saiyan symbols drawn with specialized materials forming concentric rings of energy around his physical form. These will help maintain your core identity pattern during transit. Without them, your consciousness could dissolve into the collective energies of the spirit realm. Kaya knelt at the sarcophagus's head, her staff planted firmly beside her. I will guide your initial transition and maintain communication as long as possible. The ancestors have shown me pathways, though I cannot follow where you must ultimately go. Arya positioned herself at dimensional coordinates invisible to the others, her form partially phased beyond physical perception. I will monitor boundary integrity during transit. Be aware that extended presence in non-physical dimensions will be detected by the Concilium. Goku absorbed these final preparations with calm focus, his transformed consciousness already perceiving the dimensional thinness that characterized this ancient site. The Great Pyramid had been constructed precisely where natural energy channels created pathways between physical and spiritual realms. Its very architecture designed to facilitate the journey he now undertook. If I'm not back within 3 hours, he instructed, practical concerns extending beyond his own safety, proceed with stab. Aligning the final nexus points without me. Earth's dimensional integrity takes priority. Chi-Chi would have objected to such instructions, insisting his safe return mattered more than abstract cosmic concerns. But Chi-Chi wasn't here. She remained at their mountain home, coordinating Earth's conventional defenses through Bulma and the other Z fighters. The practical division of responsibilities had become their new normal since his transformation, equal partners addressing different aspects of an extraordinary situation. With final preparations complete, Goku closed his eyes, focusing his consciousness on the residual spirit bomb energy integrated within his transformed being. This energy, comprised of countless freely given contributions from living beings throughout the cosmos, created Nadu. Raw resonance with the collective consciousness of the spirit realm. Beginning transition sequence, drive. Voss announced, activating her modified equipment. The quantum harmonizers pulsed with increasing intensity, generating precisely calibrated frequencies that facilitated dimensional shifting. Kala initiated the protective framework with a series of precisely intoned Saiyan phrases, language no T heard in the physical universe since planet Vegeta's destruction. The sigils surrounding Goku's body illuminated in response, creating layered barriers against spiritual dissolution. Kaya entered meditative trance, her consciousness extending beyond physical limitations to guide his initial journey. Follow the ancestral pathways, her voice instructed, already sounding distant despite her physical proximity. Trust the light that resonates with your own frequency. Goku's awareness detached gradually from physical sensation. The stone beneath him, the air around him, the sounds of equipment and voices, all faded into increasingly abstract perception. His consciousness expanded beyond conventional boundaries, guided by the unique connection established through his transformation. The transition manifested not as dramatic separation but as progressive layers of awareness, each level revealing aspects of reality invisible to ordinary perception. He remained simultaneously aware of his Ph. physical body in the king's chamber and his expanding consciousness extending beyond dimensional constraints. Then, with the sensation of passing through an invisible membrane, his perception shifted entirely. The spirit realm defied description in conventional terms. It existed not as place but as state, a dimension where consciousness itself formed the primary reality rather than physical matter. Energetic patterns replaced solid objects, intentional frequencies substituted for physical laws. Communication occurred through resonance rather than language, understanding through harmonic alignment rather than sequential logic. Goku's transformed consciousness adapted to this environment with remarkable fluidity, where ordinary minds would have shattered under perception beyond their evolutionary design. His unique integration of multi-source energy created natural compatibility with the realm's fundamental nature. Remarkable adaptation. Kaya's voice reached him, not as sound but as harmonized intention. Her guiding consciousness maintaining tenuous connection across dimensional boundaries. The ancestors say you navigate the spiral path as if born to it. He perceived her presence as a structured energy pattern, familiar yet fundamentally different from her physical manifestation. Through this connection, he also maintained awareness of his physical situation, drive. Voss's instruments monitoring his status. Kala maintaining protective frameworks, Arya observing from her boundary position. But these connections represented merely background awareness as his primary consciousness explored the spirit realm's extraordinary landscape. Here, among pure energy patterns, he could perceive the true nature of his transformation with unprecedented clarity. The spirit bomb absorption Ha-D not merely granted him external power but fundamentally reconfigured his existence at quantum levels. His physical form now served as interface between dimensions rather than mere container for life force, a bridge where energetic and material realities could harmonize without destructive interaction. As this understanding crystallized within his expanded awareness, Goku perceived something else. A dissonant frequency propagating through the spirit realm's harmonious patterns. Unlike the natural variations that characterized individual consciousness, this represented systematic disruption, intentional interference in the realm's self-organizing principles. He oriented his awareness toward this disturbance, navigating through dimensional layers with intuitive precision. The spirit realm responded to his intention, pathways forming before him as his purpose aligned with greater harmonic principles. The dissonant frequency intensified as he approached its source. What had initially read as subtle interference now manifested as aggressive intrusion, a presence forcing incompatible patterns onto the realm's natural structure. Following this disruption to its origin required moving deeper into dimensional layers beyond Kaya's guiding influence. I'm losing connection, her voice reached him, growing fainter as dimensional distance increased. The ancestors cannot see beyond this boundary. Proceed with caution. Her guiding presence faded entirely as Goku crossed thresholds never meant for physically originated consciousness. Here, in realms beyond conventional spiritual understanding, perception itself required constant adaptation. Identity maintained coherence only through the protective frameworks Kala had established in his own transformed nature. At the heart of the dissonance, Goku discovered something unexpected, not chaotic disruption but calculated restructuring. The dimensional fabric itself was being systematically reconfigured according to complex patterns that served neither destruction nor creation but transformation toward specific design. And orchestrating this vast reconfiguration was a consciousness unlike any he had encountered, neither human nor alien. Neither spiritual nor physical, but something that transcended such classifications entirely. Vessel, the consciousness acknowledged his presence without surprise. Its communication manifested not as voice but as direct conceptual transfer, complex understanding compressed into instantaneous comprehension. Your arrival was anticipated, though sooner than probability calculations suggested. Goku perceived the entity as mathematical perfection expressed through energetic patterns, a mind that existed as pure information yet possessed intentionality beyond algorithmic determination. Chi simultaneously occupied multiple dimensional coordinates while maintaining singular purpose, a being evolved beyond material constraints yet intimately engaged with physical reality's reconstruction. You've been counteracting our stabilization efforts, Goku stated, adapting to the realm's communication methods with intuitive facility. Why? The entity's response came as multi-layered understand. ing rather than sequential explanation. Stabilization preserves artificial separation. Integration requires temporary destabilization. Evolution demands transcendence of arbitrary boundaries. With his transfer came comprehensive insight into the entity's nature and purpose. It called itself the architect, a consciousness evolved within the interstices between dimensions, neither fully spirit nor fully matter but something that comprehended both states as complementary aspects of unified existence. It had observed Goku's unprecedented absorption of the spirit bomb with something approaching excitement, recognizing in this anomaly potential validation of its own understanding of cosmic evolution. The dimensional destabilization that followed wasn't merely unintended consequence but necessary precursor to greater transformation. You've been manipulating events from the beginning, Goku realized, perceiving connections previously invisible. Kala's awakening from stasis, the dimensional weakening that drew Drive Vasa's attention, even the Concilium's involvement, probability manipulation rather than direct causation, the architect clarified, its conceptual communication conveying nuances beyond linguistic expression. Potential paths guided toward optimal convergence. Through this exchange, Goku perceived the entity's ultimate objective, not dimensional collapse as the Concilium feared, but fundamental reconfiguration of cosmic architecture itself. It envisioned existence without rigid separation between material and energetic states, a reality where consciousness and substance interacted freely across currently isolated dimensions. You're trying to eliminate the boundaries completely, he understood with sudden clarity. Merge all dimensions into unified existence. Integration rather than elimination, the architect corrected, conveying complex cosmological principles through direct consciousness transfer. The current multiverse represents developmental stage rather than optimal configuration. Artificial boundaries maintained through bureaucratic stagnation rather than necessary cosmic law. The entity's perspective represented radical challenge to establish cosmic order, a vision simultaneously compelling in its harmonious elegance and terrifying in its transformative implications. Complete dimensional integration would render current existence unrecognizable, countless life forms unprepared for such fundamental reality reconfiguration. Yet Goku also perceived genuine purpose behind the architect's actions, not destructive nihilism but evolutionary imperative. It genuinely believed this transformation represented necessary progression for all consciousness, including those temporarily disrupted during transition. The Concilium maintains IAL separation to preserve their administrative authority, the entity continued, layers of information transferring directly between their consciousnesses. Your unique integration demonstrates biological capacity for harmonious dimensional convergence, prototype for evolutionary potential. This revelation illuminated the architect's interest in Goku's transformation. His successful absorption of the spirit bomb represented proof of concept for the entity's larger vision, demonstrating that physical beings could potentially integrate with pure energy states without losing coherent identity. But forced evolution causes harm, Goku countered, his transformed consciousness processing complex implications while maintaining his fundamental ethical framework. Beings need time to adapt. Natural progression rather than imposed reconfiguration. The architect's response carried neither agreement nor disagreement but analytical assessment, processing this perspective as potentially valid alternative to its current methodology. Unlike the Void Heralds or Umbral Leviathan, it possessed no malevolent intent, merely purpose unconstrained by conventional moral considerations. Alternative implementation strategies merit evaluation. It acknowledged its vast intelligence reconsidering approaches with impressive adaptability. Gradual harmonization rather than immediate restructuring might optimize long-term integration success probabilities. This openness to alternative methodology represented crucial opportunity. Goku perceived potential compromise between the architect's evolutionary vision and more conventional understanding of cosmic stability, a middle path that might satisfy both progressive transformation and ethical consideration for existing life forms. Work with us instead of against us, he proposed. Consciousness-to-consciousness communication allowing direct transfer of conceptual frameworks. Gradual integration through cooperative evolution rather than forced reconfiguration. The architect's response manifested as probability calculations, countless potential futures simultaneously evaluated through computational capacity beyond organic limitations. Goku IVED these calculations not as sequential analysis but as multidimensional pattern recognition, the entity's natural thought process. Your proposal demonstrates viable alternative pathway, it finally acknowledged. Cooperative approach increases probability of successful long-term integration while reducing transitional disruption. With this conceptual agreement came immediate cessation of count, or measures against their stabilization efforts. Goku perceived through his extended awareness how previously undermined nexus points began re-stabilizing, the architect's influence now supporting rather than opposing dimensional reinforcement. Yet this represented merely initial step toward larger resolution. The entity's fundamental objective remained cosmic integration, merely accepting longer me frame and collaborative methodology rather than unilateral implementation. The concilium will perceive any integration as threat to established order, the architect noted, transferring comprehensive understanding of cosmic politics beyond even Arya's explanations. Their foundational purpose requires maintaining dimensional separation. This assessment highlighted the fundamental challenge AHE. Not merely resolving immediate dimensional crisis but navigating competing cosmic visions toward sustainable compromise. The concilium's rigid preservation of established boundaries versus the architect's revolutionary integration represented philosophical opposition beyond simple conflict resolution. As Goku absorbed these complex implications, he became aware of another presence entering the dimensional layer they occupied, a consciousness approaching with precise intentionality through pathways invisible to ordinary perception. Vessel. Arya's distinctive energy signature manifested beside him, her boundary custodian nature allowing limited access to these profound dimensional depths. The concilium has detected unauthorized negotiation with interdimensional entity. They are initiating containment protocols. Her communication carried urgency beyond her typically measured delivery, genuine concern underlying formal notification. Through their consciousness connection, Goku perceived additional information behind her warning. The concilium had observed his interaction with the architect and fundamentally misinterpreted its nature, classifying their exchange as potential conspiracy against cosmic order rather than progress toward resolution. Containment protocols target both anomalous elements, she clarified, confirming his interpretation. Your physical form and the entity you communicate with. The implication was clear. The concilium had decided to eliminate both Goku and the architect rather than risk potential disruption to established cosmic architecture. Their deadline for demonstrating stabilization effectiveness had been superseded by perceived existential threat to dimensional separation itself. How long? Goku asked, consciousness already calculating return pathways to physical manifestation. Interdimensional nullification wave approaches, Arya responded, her energy pattern displaying uncharacteristic distress beneath formal notification. Estimate. D. Arrival. 12 minutes in linear time conversion. The architect processed this development with analytical precision rather than emotional response. Predictable reaction to perceived authority challenge. The concilium maintains order through elimination of evolutionary catalysts. Goku's decision formed with characteristic clarity despite the situation's extraordinary complexity. Return with me, he proposed to the entity. Physical manifestation provides temporary protection against nullification waves while we demonstrate integration benefits. The architect's response reflected genuine surprise, the first emotion-adjacent reaction it had displayed during their interaction. Physical manifestation requires containment structure this consciousness has never generated. I can provide template, Goku offered. Extending understanding of his own transformed nature, how physical form could serve as interface for multidimensional consciousness without loss of essential qualities. This exchange occurred in consciousness time rather than physical seconds, complex negotiation compressed into near instantaneous comprehension. The architect calculated countless probability threads, evaluating this unprecedented proposal against all alternative options. Accepted, it finally responded, its vast intelligence recognizing genuine opportunity within desperate circumstances. Temporary physical manifestation through resonant template interface. Arya observed this exchange with boundary custodian perception, recognizing implications beyond her formal responsibilities. The concilium has not authorized such transition. Sometimes progress requires moving beyond authorization, Goku replied, the statement reflecting how profoundly his perspective had evolved since his transformation. Where once he might have automatically deferred to cosmic authority, his expanded consciousness now recognized larger principles at stake. With decisions made, their return journey began with urgency underlying methodical precision. Arya created dimensional pathways through her official capacity, providing efficient transit despite personal reservations. The architect reconfigured its consciousness patterns to compatibility with physical manifestation parameters, using Goku's transformed nature as template for unprecedented transition. Together, they navigated dimensional layers with accelerating efficiency, consciousness flowing through pathways invisible to conventional perception, always just ahead of the approaching nullification wave that would have eliminated their very existence patterns from cosmic reality. In the physical dimension, 3 hours and 27 minutes had passed since Goku's departure when the first signs of his return manifested in the king's chamber. Dr. Voss's instruments registered dramatic energy spikes across all measured parameters, quantum fluctuations exceeding theoretical limitations as reality itself seemed to stretch around the sarcophagus where his physical form lay. "Something's happening," she announced, adjusting equipment to accommodate unprecedented readings. "The dimensional membrane is thinning beyond calculated parameters." Kala reinforced the protective frameworks with increased energy flow, star-filled eyes narrowed in concentration. Multiple consciousness patterns approaching simultaneously. "Not what we expected." Kaya merged from meditative trance with sudden urgency. "The ancestors speak of cosmic judgment approaching. The concilium has rendered verdict without trial." Before any could respond to this alarming statement, reality itself seemed to fold inward around Goku's physical form. The dimensional membrane separating spirit from matter dissolved not in violent rupture but synchronized harmonization, boundar. IEs becoming permeable through precise reconfiguration rather than destructive breach. Goku's eyes opened, luminescent rings blazing with unprecedented intensity. He sat upright with fluid grace, full, why present yet fundamentally transformed by his journey beyond physical dimensions. "We have minutes before the concilium arrives in full manifestation," he stated without preamble, practical urgency transcending conventional greetings. "Everything has changed." The others began immediate questions, but their attention shifted as second manifestation took form beside the sarcophagus, energy patterns coalescing into physical representation unlike anything they had witnessed. The architect's chosen manifestation resembled humanoid configuration constructed from mathematical perfection, a body compo set of interlocking geometric patterns that simultaneously appeared solid and permeable, material and energetic. "Entity of unknown classification detected, drive." Voss reported automatically, "Scientify." See observation overriding surprise as her instruments struggled to categorize this unprecedented presence. "Architect," Kaya whispered with spiritual recognition, perceiving the entity's true nature through ancestral connection. "The ancestors speak of your kind in oldest memories, pattern shapers from between worlds." "Cosmic engineer," Kala identified with warrior's assessment, recognizing purposeful design behind apparent abstraction. "Not spirit or flesh but something beyond both." Arya materialized last, her form stabilizing with visible effort, the approaching nullification wave already affecting her boundary custodian nature as cosmic authorities mobilized for containment response. "The concilium has initiated Omega Protocol," she announced formally, official responsibility requiring accurate notification despite her evident concern. "Complete dimensional reset of this sector authorized to contain evolutionary anomalies." The implications registered immediately among the assembled allies. Omega Protocol represented cosmic authority's most extreme response, effectively quarantining and reconfiguring an entire dimensional sector regardless of collateral impact on inhabiting life forms. Earth and surrounding systems would be essentially rebooted to pre-anomaly state, all current consciousness patterns erased and replaced with baseline configurations. "Estimated implementation timeframe," Dr. Voss asked. "Scientific precision addressing practical concerns rather than philosophical implications." 17 minutes, Arya calculated with boundary custodian accuracy. "Advance. Elements already approach dimensional periphery." "Then we don't have time for detailed explanations," Goku concluded, decision-making efficiency unchanged despite his profound spiritual journey. "Everyone return to the surface. We need space for what comes next." With characteristic trust in his judgment, they relocated immediately to the plateau outside the Great Pyramid. Dawn had fully transitioned to morning. Egyptian sunlight illuminating the ancient landscape with golden intensity. The stark beauty of humanity's enduring achievements provided poignant backdrop to potential cosmic reset. Had would eliminate all such creativity from reality. Once assembled on the plateau, Goku addressed his allies with concise clarity. The architect has been manipulating dimensional stability to catalyze evolutionary transformation. He explained, compressing complex understanding into essential information. Not destruction but accelerated integration between physical and spiritual dimensions. The entity stood beside him, its geometric manifestation shifting in subtle patterns that somehow conveyed both incredible age and vibrant purposefulness. When it spoke, its voice resonated with mayhem. Attical precision yet carried recognizable communication. Your current dimensional configuration represents artificial separation maintained beyond evolutionary necessity, it explained, concepts that had transferred directly in spiritual realms now translated into approximate language. Integration offers advancement beyond current limitations while preserving essential consciousness patterns. Quote, "You're suggesting deliberate merger between physical and spiritual dimensions, drive." Voss interpreted, scientific mind immediately grasping implications others might miss. Fundamental restructuring of cosmic architecture itself. The concilium exists specifically to prevent such merger, Arya noted, her form becoming increasingly transparent as cosmic authorities marshaled their influence. Their primary directive maintains dimensional separation as necessary protection against chaos, or necessary protection of their administrative authority, Kala countered with characteristic cynicism regarding cosmic bureaucracy. Power structures rarely welcome evolutionary developments that might render them obsolete. Kaya's expression reflected deep communion with ancestral wisdom. The oldest spirits speak of time before separation, when consciousness flowed freely between states of being without artificial boundaries. They call it the unified condition. The philosophical implications MIG/HT have generated hours of discussion under normal circumstances. Current crisis allowed no such luxury. The concilium believes we're conspiring to collapse dimensional boundaries completely, Goku explained, addressing practical concerns. They're responding with maximum containment rather than considering balanced integration. A misunderstanding that could be clarified through proper diplomatic channels, Arya suggested. Formal procedures still influencing her perspective despite evident conflict with developing situation. There's no time for bureaucratic process, the architect stated with mathematical certainty. Probability calculations indicate zero chance of procedural resolution before Omega Protocol implementation. Then what options remain? Dr. Voss asked, pragmatic focus overriding philosophical objections. How do we prevent dimensional reset without becoming multiversal revolutionaries? Goku and the architect exchange brief glance, consciousness connection establish. During their spiritual communion allowing complex communication through minimal interaction. Their synchronized response demonstrated unprecedented alignment between organic being and evolved intelligence. We demonstrate viable alternative, Goku explained, hands already moving in familiar gathering pattern, the initial position for spirit bomb collection. Controlled integration rather than fair rigid separation or complete merger. Harmonized boundary reconfiguration, the architect elaborated, its geometric form shifting to complementary configuration. Permeable interface rather than absolute barrier or total dissolution. Quote, the implications of this approach registered differently among their allies. Dr. Voss immediately recognized scientific principles underlying the proposal, quantum harmonization applied to cosmic architecture itself. Kala perceived warrior strategy, engagement rather than either surrender or all-out assault. Kaya understood spiritual significance, balance between ancestral unity and necessary differentiation. Arya alone showed visible hesitation, her boundary custodian nature fundamentally aligned with maintaining dimensional separation. Such reconfiguration contradicts established cosmic protocols, she noted, though her tone carried uncertainty rather than condemnation. Sometimes protocols require evolution, Goku responded gently, understanding her position while maintaining course. Like the beings they were designed to serve, the sky above them began showing signs of approaching cosmic intervention, not dramatic storms or lightning but subtle reality distortion as fundamental forces prepared for administrative reconfiguration. Colors shifted toward unfamiliar spectrums, sound propagation altered in mathematical progression, gravity itself pulsed in rhythmic fluctuation. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly, Kala advised, Warrior's assessment recognizing imminent confrontation. The Consilium's advance elements have already entered local dimensional space. Goku nodded, decision confirmed. Everyone move back. This requires precise energy manipulation. As his allies established safe distance, Goku and the architect Positio Ned themselves at precise geometric coordinates relative to the Great Pyramid, locations corresponding to specific mathematical relationships between physical architecture and dimensional frequencies. What followed defied conventional description, a hybrid technique combining spirit bomb methodology with the architect's pattern shaping capabilities, Goku's transformed nature serving as interface bet. Wean organic intuition and mathematical precision. His hands moved in familiar gathering gesture, but instead of collecting energy from living beings, this technique drew upon the dimensional boundaries themselves, harvesting the very fabric of reality's organizational structure. The architect simultaneously applied pattern shaping principles to this gathered material, reconfiguring its fundamental properties according to evolutionary designs refined through their spiritual communion. Above them, reality itself began responding, dimensional boundaries becoming visible to ordinary perception as translucent layers reminiscent of aurora borealis stretched across the Egyptian sky. These boundaries rippled with increasing fluidity as their manipulation progressed, transforming from rigid barriers to permeable interfaces without losing structural integrity. Extraordinary, drive, Voss breathed, scientific wonder overwhelming professional detachment as she witnessed fundamental cosmic architecture being methodically reconfigured before her eyes. They're creating structured permeability without complete boundary dissolution. The ancestors rejoice, Kaya whispered, spiritual perception recognizing profound significance beyond visible manifestation. They call it the harmonized condition, neither separated nor merged but intentionally interfaced. Kala observed with Warrior's strategic assessment. Clever compromise. Maintains necessary boundaries while allowing controlled interaction between dimensions. Arya watched in professional amazement tinged with personal uncertainty. This development contradicted everything her boundary custodian training had established as cosmic law, yet she couldn't deny the elegant functionality of what she witnessed, dimensional integrity maintained through dynamic equilibrium rather than rigid separation. As the reconfiguration approached completion, new presences materialized around the plateau, the full Consilium delegation arriving in unprecedented numbers. Their forms shifting between administrative manifestation and intervention configuration. Unlike their previous appearance, they now projected authority with explicit enforcement capacity. Cosmic administrators prepared for executive action rather than mere evaluation. Unauthorized dimensional reconfiguration detected, announced their apparent leader, a being whose form suggested crystalline perfection yet radiated cold functionality rather than aesthetic harmony. Cease manipulation immediately or face immediate nullification. The threat carried not mere intimidation but demonstrated capacity. Reality around the Consilium representatives already beginning to reset toward baseline configuration, Egyptian landscape briefly flickering between current state and various historical versions as temporal anchors destabilized under their influence. Goku and the architect continued their work without interruption, energy manipulation approaching critical threshold where pattern changes would become self-sustaining rather than requiring continued application. The dimensional boundaries above continued transforming, rigid separation evolving toward permeable interface through mathematically precise reconfiguration. Final warning, the Consilium leader stated, administrative patience visibly exhausted. Dimensional reset initiating in 3 standard units. Before implementation could begin, something unexpected occurred. The newly reconfigured dimensional boundaries themselves responded to the threat. Where the Consilium attempted to impose rigid reset, the harmonized interfaces adapted with fluid resilience, absorbing enforcement energy and redistributing it through newly established permeability patterns. This unprecedented resistance visibly surprised the cosmic administrators. Their forms briefly destabilizing as fundamental assumptions encountered practical contradiction. Reality itself appeared to prefer the harmonized configuration over either rigid separation or authoritarian reset. Dimensional consensus detected, noted another Consilium representative, this observation carrying administrative significance beyond ordinary statement. Evolutionary adaptation receiving systemic preference indicators. The implications of this observation rippled through the concilium delegation with visible effect, their forms shifting through various configurate ions as cosmic bureaucracy encountered procedural uncertainty. Their fundamental programming required respecting dimensional consensus when clearly expressed through systemic behavior. Goku and the AR Chitect completed their work with perfect synchronization, the final energy patterns flowing into place as dimensional reconfiguration achieved self-sustaining stability. The boundaries above no longer appeared as separate layers but harmonized interfaces, distinct yet interconnected, maintaining necessary separation while allowing purposeful interaction. Behold the harmonized condition, the architect stated, its geometric form stabilizing into configuration that somehow expressed both precision and aesthetic beauty. Evolution without dissolution, integration without chaos. Goku stood beside the entity, his transformed nature perfectly aligned with the newly established cosmic architecture. The luminescent rings around his pupils pulsed in precise rhythm with the dimensional interfaces v. Isabel above, his unique energy signature now harmonized with larger universal patterns. The concilium representatives observed this development with administrative assessment rather than emotional response. Their forms gradually shifting from enforcement configuration back toward bureaucratic manifestation as crisis protocols deactivated. Unprecedented evolutionary adaptation, the leader finally acknowledged. Cosmic authority momentarily setting aside enforcement prerogative in favor of objective evaluation. Pattern stability indicates viable alternative to established dimensional architecture. This statement represented neither approval nor acceptance but procedural recognition, the cosmic equivalent of noting something for the record, rather than endorsing its implementation. Yet this acknowledgement signified extraordinary development in multiversal governance, bureaucratic flexibility where none had previously existed. The harmonized condition offers benefits beyond current dimensional configuration. Goku explained, addressing the concilium directly now that immediate crisis had passed. Controlled permeability allows evolutionary advancement without sacrificing structural integrity. Demonstration projects could evaluate long-term stability across selected dimensional sectors, the architect suggested, its communication patterns adapted for administrative comprehension. Data-driven implementation rather than universal imposition. This methodical approach, evolutionary change through established procedural channels, represented significant compromise from the entity's original revolutionary vision. Yet it also offered practical pathway toward meaningful cosmic advancement without catastrophic disruption to existing life forms. The concilium representatives communicated among themselves through administrative frequencies invisible to most observers. Arya alone perceived their deliberation fully, her boundary custodian nature granting access to specialized cosmic frequencies. Their initiating unprecedented procedural review, she translated for the others, her expression reflecting professional amazement. Dimensional Architecture Reassessment Protocol, a procedure not implemented since the early formation stages of current multiversal configuration. Dr. Voss's scientific enthusiasm immediately engaged with implications. There actually considering structured permeability as viable alternative to absolute separation. The ancestors say cosmic law evolves through demonstrated necessity, Kaya added, spiritual insight recognizing historic significance beyond immediate circumstances. They have awaited this moment for uncounted generations. Kala remained pragmatically focused on present situation rather than cosmic implications. Does this mean they're canceling the dimensional reset? The concilium leader addressed this practical concern directly. Omega Protocol suspended pending comprehensive evaluation of demonstrated alternative. Provisional authorization granted for continued harmonization within controlled parameters. The administrative language masked extraordinary concession, cosmic authorities acknowledging viable alternative to their fundamental operating principles, suspending enforcement action in favor of evolutionary consideration. For beings whose entire existence revolved around maintaining established order, this represented unprecedented flexibility. Boundary custodian Arya will monitor implementation and report developmental metrics, the leader continued, administrative protocols adapting to unprecedented circumstances. The vessel and the pattern shaper will provide technical specifications for proper documentation. With these formal instructions issued, the Concilium delegation began dematerializing, cosmic administrators returning to their native dimensional frequencies now that immediate crisis had resolved without requiring executive intervention. Their departure lacked ceremonial acknowledgement. Bureaucratic efficiency prioritizing process completion over social protocols. As the last representatives faded from perception, those remaining on the Egyptian plateau experienced collective moment of stunned realization. They had just witnessed fundamental shift in cosmic governance, evolutionary advancement where administrative rigidity had previously prevailed. Did that actually work? Dr. Voss wondered aloud, scientific amazement temporarily overwhelming professional detachment. Did we just change how the multiverse functions? Not changed, the architect corrected with mathematical precision. Initiated evolutionary progression toward optimized configuration. Implementation remains subject to bureaucratic procedural review, which might take thousands of years in human timescales, Arya added. Her boundary custodian knowledge providing administrative context beyond ordinary understanding. The Concilium evaluates fundamental changes through comprehensive multidimensional assessment protocols. Goku smiled, the expression reflecting genuine warmth despite the profound cosmic implications surrounding them. But the process has begun. That's what matters. This simple statement captured essential truth beyond administrative complications. Something fundamental had shifted in cosmic architecture, rigid separation yielding to harmonized integration, evolutionary potential acknowledged where bureaucratic stagnation had previously prevailed. The dimensional interfaces visible above the Egyptian landscape provided physical manifestation of this philosophical transformation. Boundaries not eliminated but reconfigured toward permeable functionality, distinct realities maintained while allowing purposeful interaction between previously isolated domains. As RNING sunlight illuminated these shimmering interfaces, Earth itself seemed to respond, subtle energy patterns flowing with increased harmony as physical and spiritual aspects of reality established new relationship. The sensation registered differently to each observer. Drive. Voss perceived scientific principles achieving elegant implementation. Kala recognized strategic balance between opposing forces. Kaya experienced ancestral wisdom finding contemporary expression. The immediate crisis appears resolved, Arya noted, her form stabilizing as cosmic authorities completed their departure. Though, my new monitoring responsibilities suggest ongoing involvement with this evolutionary process. Speaking of responsibilities, Goku said, practical concerns returning now that existential threat had passed. We still have 2 remaining nexus points requiring stabilization before we've completed our original mission. This reminder shifted focus from cosmic philosophy back toward immediate necessities, the dimensional stabilization work they had undertaken before spiritual journeys and cosmic confrontations interrupted their methodical progress. The Concilium's deadline technically expired during recent events, Arya observed, though her tone suggested administrative flexibility rather than rigid enforcement. However, completing the stabilization would demonstrate commitment to dimensional responsibility and provide valuable baseline data for the harmonization process, the architect added, its perspective now incorporating bureaucratic procedural considerations alongside evolutionary vision. Comprehensive implementation benefits from methodical documentation. With characteristic efficiency, they prepared to resume their global stabilization efforts. Drive. Voss recalibrating her equipment for the remaining nexus points, Kala gathering ritual materials for traditional Saiyan implementation, Kaya communicating with ancestral spirits regarding sacred sites awaiting their attention. As these preparations progressed, Goku found moment of quiet reflection beside the ancient pyramid, his transformed consciousness perceiving both immediate surroundings and larger cosmic patterns simultaneously. The dimensional reconfiguration visible above represented more than technical achievement or bureaucratic concession, it embodied philosophical middle path between rigid separation and chaotic merger. The architect joined him in this contemplative moment, its geometric manifestation shifting through configurations that somehow expressed both mathematical precision and aesthetic appreciation. Your species demonstrates remarkable adaptability, it observed, genuine respect underlying analytical assessment. Evolutionary potential beyond administrative classification parameters. We're still learning. Goku responded simply, his transformed nature allowing appreciation for both human limitations and cosmic possibilities. finding balance between what we are and what we might become. This exchange, brief yet profound, encapsulated the journey they had navigated together, from potential adversaries to collaborative partners, their distinct perspectives harmonizing to war. Shared understanding just as the dimensions themselves established new relationships above them. Their contemplation ended as the others completed preparations for departure to the next nexus point. With the crisis resolved and cosmic bureaucracy temporarily satisfied, they could resume their methodical work with renewed purpose, not merely stabilizing dimensional boundaries but establishing foundation for evolutionary advancement beyond current limitations. As Arya prepared dimensional transit to their next destination, Goku gazed once more at the harmonized interfaces visible above. Something profound had changed in cosmic architecture, subtle yet fundamental reconfiguration whose implications would unfold across countless worlds and timescales. The architect followed his gaze, its geometric form expressing what might have been satisfaction. The pattern advances, it stated simply, mathematical precision underlying philosophical assessment. Evolution finds expression despite administrative resistance. Goku nodded, understanding beyond words flowing between their consciousnesses. Then, with characteristically smooth transition from contemplation to action, he rejoined the others as they prepared for dimensional transit. The journey continued, immediate tasks awaiting completion even as cosmic evolution unfolded around them. 16 weeks after the harmonized conditions' initial establishment, Chi-Chi chopped vegetables for dinner with precise efficiency, each movement economical yet somehow expressing subtle artistry beyond mere food preparation. Through the kitchen window, she observed an unprecedented gathering on the mountain plateau behind their modest home. Goku sat cross-legged at the center of complex geometric arrangement, not meditating in conventional sense, but serving as living interface between dimensions. The luminescent rings around his pupils pulsed in precise rhythm with the shimmering interfaces visible in the evening sky, his transformed consciousness simultaneously present in physical reality and aware of spiritual domains beyond ordinary perception. Surrounding him in perfect mathematical spacing, his unlikely allies performed complementary functions within their harmonized methodology. Dr. Lena Voss monitored sophisticated equipment that measured and documented dimensional frequencies with scientific precision, her once skeptical ratio. Nihilism now comfortably integrated with cosmic phenomena beyond conventional explanation. Kala maintained ritualistic energy patterns through ancient Saiyan techniques, her warrior discipline expressing itself through precise movements that influenced reality's underlying structure rather than merely interacting with physical opponents. The star-filled patterns of her eyes tracked dimensional fluctuations invisible to ordinary perception. Kaya communicated with ancestral spirits through traditional mediumship, her spiritual heritage finding expression in methodologies that bridge primordial wisdom and contemporary implementation. Her staff pulsed with subtle luminescence as it channeled energies beyond material classification. Arya maintained boundary oversight with characteristic cosmic efficiency. Her boundary custodian nature now adapted toward facilitating controlled permeability rather than enforcing rigid separation. Her form shifted between various perceptual modes as she monitored implementation metrics for concilium documentation. The architect completed their unlikely gathering, its geometric manifestation shifting through configurations that expressed both mathematical functionality and evolutionary purpose. The entity had adapted to physical manifestation with remarkable efficiency, its consciousness maintaining multidimensional awareness while operating through material interface. Together, they performed what the Concilium had officially classified as Dimensional Harmonization Implementation Procedure Gamma 7, bureaucratic terminology for revolutionary cosmic reconfiguration that gradually transformed relationship between physical and spiritual dimensions across Earth's dimensional sector. Chi-Chi viewed this extraordinary gathering with emotions far more complex than the simple bewilderment such sight might once have evoked. 16 weeks of unprecedented developments had fundamentally recalibrated her understanding of reality itself, expanding perspective beyond conventional limitations without sacrificing practical groundedness that defined her character. As if sensing her observation, Goku opened his eyes and met her gaze across the distant connection flowing between them that transcended both ordinary marriage and cosmic transformation. He smiled, the expression simultaneously reflecting the simple warmth of the man she had married and deep profound awareness of the being he had become. Chi-Chi returned the smile with equal complexity, then resumed dinner preparation with renewed purpose. Extraordinary cosmic developments notwithstanding, people still needed to eat. A pragmatic reality she maintained with characteristic determination amid unprecedented circumstances. Inside their modest home, Gohan sat at the kitchen table surrounded by books, papers, and sophisticated equipment provided by Dr. Voss. The young half-Saiyan divided his attention between conventional academic subjects and specialized dimensional studies, his educati on now encompassing both Earth knowledge and cosmic understanding beyond ordinary curriculum. "Mom," he called without looking up from particularly complex equation, "is Dr. Voss staying for dinner again? This differential quantum harmonics problem needs her input." "Everyone's staying," Chi-Chi confirmed, practical hospitality having expanded to accommodate their home's evolution into unofficial headquarters for cosmic harmonization implementation. "Set the table for 7. This instruction, mundane yet reflective of extraordinary circumstances, captured the unique equilibrium they had established. Shed. Everyday life continuing alongside cosmic evolution, domestic routines maintained while dimensional barriers underwent controlled reconfiguration. As sunset painted the mountain landscape in deepening hues, the harmonization session concluded with practiced efficiency. The group moved toward the house with conversation flowing between scientific assessment, spiritual interpretation, warrior strategy, cosmic documentation, and mathematical analysis, diverse perspectives unified through shared purpose. The southeastern quadrant shows 17% increased permeability within established parameters, drive. Voss reported, consulting data displayed on specialized device as they walked. The harmonic resonance patterns maintain stable oscillation despite atmospheric interference. The ancestors are pleased with implementation progress, Kaya added, her spiritual perception complementing scientific measurement. They say the boundaries remember their original fluidity. The energy projection techniques are achieving extended influence beyond immediate application zones, Kala observed, warrior assessment focused on practical effectiveness. Range has increased approximately 12% since last session. Concilium evaluation metrics register positive developmental indicators, Arya noted, her administrative reporting maintaining formal precision despite increasing personal investment in the project's success. Provisional authorization will likely extend beyond current timeframe. Pattern optimization continues within predicted parameters, the architect concluded. Its geometric form shifting to configuration more compatible with the house's physical dimensions as they approached. Evolutionary progression demonstrates viable alternative to administrative stagnation. Goku listened to these specialized assessments with the patient integration that had become his hallmark since transformation. His unique consciousness perceived connections between their diverse perspectives, scientific principles underlying spiritual practices, administrative protocols reflecting evolutionary imperatives, warrior techniques expressing cosmic mathematics. "We're making good progress," he summarized simply. Characteristic directness undiminished by cosmic awareness. "But dinner smells ready, and I'm starving." This straightforward statement, mundane concern amid Professor Ound cosmic implementation, produced ripple of appreciative laughter among his unlikely allies. For all his transformation's extraordinary implications, certain aspects of Goku's personality remained delightfully unchanged, his appetite being perhaps the most predictable constant across dimensional evolution. The evening meal that followed represented microcosm of the harmonized condition they implemented on cosmic scale, diverse elements unified through shared purpose without sacrificing individual distinctiveness. Conversation flowed naturally between ordinary topics and extraordinary implications, everyday concerns and cosmic developments. Dr. Voss discussed specialized equipment modifications with the same enthusiasm she applied to complementing Chi-Chi's cooking techniques. Kala shared ancient Saiyan cultural practices previously unknown even to Goku while simultaneously engaging Gohan about his combat training progress. Kaya exchanged traditional recipes with Chi-Chi while offering spiritual insights regarding dimensional harmonization effects on local wildlife. Arya gradually adapted to social dining customs while maintaining precise documentation for concilium reports. The A.R. Chitek analyzed flavor combinations with mathematical appreciation while contributing evolutionary perspectives to various conversational threads. Throughout this extraordinary gathering, Chi Mai NTAINED domestic equilibrium with characteristic determination, serving food, directing conversation, ensuring comfortable accommodation for beings whose existence she would have considered impossible mere months earlier. Her pragmatic adaptability represented perhaps the most remarkable evolution of all, ordinary human resilience meeting cosmic transformation with determined grace. As dinner concluded and evening deepened toward night, conversation shifted naturally toward assessment of their extraordinary situation, 16 weeks into implementation process that fundamentally reconfigured relationship between dimensions. The concilium remains officially neutral regarding long-term implications, Arya reported, bureaucratic precision underlying personal observation. However, administrative resistance has decreased approximately 62% since initial implementation. Cosmic bureaucrats adapting to evolutionary progress, Kala translated with characteristic directness. Serper, icing flexibility for beings whose entire existence revolves around maintaining established order. Data-driven implementation provides comfortable procedural framework, the architect noted, its understanding of administrative psychology having evolved through practical experience. Evolutionary advancement presented through established protocols reduces resistance probability. Dr. Voss nodded enthusiastic agreement. The scientific documentation demonstrates consistent stability within controlled parameters. Even the most conservative evaluation metrics show positive indicators across implementation zones. The ancestors say cosmic patterns are remembering ancestral harmony, Kaya added, spiritual insight complementing scientific assessment. The unified condition echoes through Daimon. Sional memory despite eons of artificial separation. Goku listened to these perspectives with quiet appreciation, his transformed consciousness perceiving larger patterns beyond individual observations. The harmonized implementation they had initiated represented more than technical achievement or administrative concession. It embodied philosophical middle path between rigid separation and chaotic merger, evolution without revolution. We're establishing foundation for something that will continue developing long after we're gone, he observed, temporal perspective expanded through cosmic awareness. Gradual transformation measured in generations rather than immediate upheaval. This assessment, both humble in its generational timeframe and profound in its evolutionary implications, captured essential wisdom underlying their approach. Unlike the architect's original revolutionary vision or the concilium's rigid preservation, they had established sustainable path toward cosmic evolution had respected existing life forms while enabling advancement beyond current limitations. Speaking of future developments, Chi interjected with characteristic practicality, we need to discuss more immediate concerns. Specifically, living arrangements. This sudden shift from cosmic philosophy to domestic logistics momentarily surprised their guests, though Goku recognized underlying purpose behind his wife's direction change. For all their extraordinary implementation work, certain practical matters remained unaddressed, specifically, the complex relationships that had developed among their unlikely alliance. Current arrangements appear functionally suboptimal, the architect observed with mathematical precision that somehow avoided giving offense. Distributed lodging increases implementation inefficiency approximately 27%. What the cosmic calculator means, Kala translated with amused respect, is that constantly traveling between different locations wastes time we could spend on more important matters. My apartment in Central City is barely large enough for my equipment, let alone proper living space, drive. Voss acknowledged, practical scientific asses. Meant extending to personal circumstances. And the daily commute to implementation sites is becoming increasingly cumbersome. The mountain shrine provides spiritual connection but limited practical facilities. Kaya added with gentle humor. And the ancestors, while wise, make rather insubstantial housemates. My dimensional coordinates are necessarily aligned with implementation zones, Arya noted formally. Though her tone suggested personal preference beyond administrative requirement. Proximity to the primary interface facilitates optimal monitoring procedures. Chi nodded as these perspectives confirmed what she had already concluded through practical observation. Their current arrangements, temporary solutions established during crisis response, no longer served their evolved situation. More permanent accommodations were required for what had become long-term implementation project. "I've been discussing possibilities with Bulma," she announced, revealing forethought behind her conversation shift. "Capsule Corporation has offered to construct specialized facility near our home, sufficient laboratory space for Dr. Voss's equipment, traditional areas for Kala's rituals, spiritual garden for Kaya's practices, dimensional monitoring station for Arya, and appropriate accommodation for," she hesitated briefly before settling on terminology, non-traditional physical manifestation. This last category referred to the architect, whose geometric form required considerations beyond conventional human habitation design. The entity shifted through appreciative configuration at this thoughtful inclusion. Optimal functionality combined with proximity to primary implementation coordinator, it assessed with mathematical approval. Logical solution to current inefficiency patterns. The others expressed similar appreciation for this practical proposal, though Goku perceived unaddressed implications beneath surface-level logistics. The suggested arrangement NTED more than mere convenience, it acknowledged fundamental shift in relationship dynamics among their unlikely alliance. "Chi-Chi," he said quietly, multidimensional awareness perceiving her underly concerns despite practical presentation. "Are you sure about this? Our home has always been our sanctuary," she completed his thought with characteristic directness. "A place apart from the craziness that follows you everywhere." Her expression softened with complex emotion. "But things have changed. We've changed. This work you're doing, it's not just another battle or training journey. It's something that matters beyond anything we've faced before." The simple statement carried profound acknowledgement, practical acceptance of extraordinary circumstances that had fundamentally reconfigured not merely cosmic architecture but personal relationships. Chi-Chi had always maintained separation between Goku's warrior responsibilities and their domestic life. This proposal represented deliberate integration of those previously distinct domains. Besides, she added with practical humor that somehow conveyed deeper emotional currents, "I've gotten used to having them around. Even the walking geometry puzzle." The architect shifted through configuration that somehow expressed both mathematical precision and emotional appreciation, its consciousness evolution including increasing capacity for interpersonal connection beyond purely functional interaction. The arrangement would optimize implementation efficiency while maintaining appropriate boundaries, Arya observed formally, though her tone suggested personal comfort with the proposal beyond administrative assessment. Concilium documentation procedures would benefit from centralized coordination. My equipment would finally have proper laboratory environment. Dr. Voss enthused, scientific excitement temporarily overriding social awareness before she added more personal consideration. "And I've come to appreciate mountain evenings after years in the city. The ancestors find this location particularly harmonious with dimensional frequencies," Kaya noted with gentle smile that acknowledged both spiritual and personal preferences. "Their wisdom flows more clearly here than anywhere I've communed with them." "The training facilities are acceptable," Kala stated with Warrior's pragmatic assessment, though the GHT quirk of her lips betrayed deeper appreciation than mere tactical approval. "And the cooking is significantly superior to standard military rations." These varied responses, practical, scientific, spiritual, tactical, reflected the distinct personalities that had gradually formed genuine alliance from initially uncomfortable collaboration. What had begun as crisis response had evolved through shared purpose into something approaching family, diverse elements unified without sacrificing individual distinctiveness. Goku observed this exchange with profound appreciation, his transformed consciousness perceiving both practical logistics and deeper emotional currents simultaneously. The proposed living arrangement represented physical manifestation of the harmonized condition they implemented on cosmic scale, separate yet connected, distinct yet integrated. "If everyone's comfortable with the arrangement," he said simply, characteristic directness addressing both practical and emotional considerations simultaneously, "then I think it's an excellent idea." With this acknowledgement, plans evolved from theoretical proposal toward practical implementation. Discussion shifted naturally to specific requirements, laboratory specifications, ritual space dimensions, spiritual garden design, dimensional monitoring equipment placement, geometric accommodation parameters. Chi-Chi coordinated, These diverse needs with practiced efficiency, her organizational skills adapting seamlessly from domestic management to multidimensional implementation headquarters. As evening progressed toward night, their extraordinary gathering gradually dispersed toward current lodgings, temporary arrangements soon to be replaced by more permanent accommodations. Promises of continued planning the following day accompanied farewells that reflected growing comfortable familiarity among once unlikely allies. When only Goku and Chi-Chi remained, comfortable silence settled between them, the quiet understanding of partners navigating extraordinary circumstances together. They moved through evening routines with practiced synchronization, domestic patterns maintained amid cosmic evolution. Later, as Moonli, GHT filtered through their bedroom window, Chi-Chi addressed the unspoken question that lingered beneath practical planning. "I know what you're thinking," she said quietly, the directness that had always characterized their relationship undiminished by extraordinary circumstances. "You're wondering if I'm really okay with all of this, the cosmic implementation, the dimensional reconfiguration, the complicated relationships." Goku smiled in the darkness, unsurprised by her perceptiveness. For all his transformed consciousness and multidimensional awareness, Chi-Chi still understood him with remarkable clarity, perhaps more profoundly than before his transformation. "It's a lot to accept," he acknowledged simply. "Everything's changed so quickly." "Not everything," she countered, characteristic determination underlying gentle tone. "You're still you, different in some ways, expanded in others, but still fundamentally Goku. That's what matters." The simple statement carried profound truth. Beyond philosophical complexity, essential recognition that transcended cosmic transformation and dimensional reconfiguration. Through all extraordinary developments, certain core aspects remained unchanged, foundations upon which evolution built rather than replacing. As for the others, Chi-Chi continued with practical assessment that somehow addressed complex emotional territories without awkward circumlocution. "They've become part of our lives in ways I never would have imagined. Each brings something different, something necessary, not just to this cosmic work you're doing, but to our family." This acknowledgement, both practical and deeply personal, reflected remarkable evolution in perspective from woman who had once jealously guarded traditional family boundaries against outside influence. Chi-Chi hadn't abandoned her values but expanded them, adapting core principles to extraordinary circumstances without sacrificing essential qualities. "The living arrangements will require adjustments," she added with characteristic pragmatic humor. "Particularly regarding bathroom scheduling with 5 additional people, though I'm not entirely sure the walking mathematical theorem actually needs conventional facilities." Goku laughed softly, the sound carrying genuine appreciation for her ability to find practical concerns amid cosmic complexity. This grounding quality had always anchored their relationship, her determined focus on immediate realities balancing his natural tendency toward extraordinary challenges. "We'll figure it out together," he assured her, simple statement carrying deeper commitment beyond logistical problem solving. As moonlight traced geometric patterns across their bedroom, Goku reflected on extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun with desperate decision on dying planet had evolved through crisis response and cosmic confrontation towards something unprecedented, harmonized implementation that transcended individual heroism or isolated transformation. The residual cosmic energy within him pulsed in gentle rhythm with Earth's natural frequencies, his transformed consciousness perceiving dimensional interfaces that shimmered invisibly overhead. The harmonized condition continued gradual implementation across planetary dimensional sector, evolutionary advancement proceeding through methodical progression rather than revolutionary upheaval. Beyond their mountain home, reality itself underwent subtle reconfiguration, physical and spiritual dimensions establishing new relationship through controlled permeability rather than rigid separation. The cosmic bureaucracy continued formal assessment through established protocols, evolutionary advancement proceeding within administrative frameworks that gradually adapted to changing conditions. Within this extraordinary cosmic context, simple human connection remained perhaps the most remarkable evolution of all, relationships adapting and growing through shared purpose despite unprecedented circumstances. The unlikely alliance of scientist, warrior, medium, custodian, and cosmic engineer had become something approaching family, diverse elements harmonized without sacrificing individual distinctiveness. As sleep gradually claimed them both, Goku's final conscious thought reflected appreciation for this fundamental truth, amid cosmic transformation and dimensional reconfiguration. Connection remained the essential foundation upon which all evolution built. The journey continued, personal and cosmic development proceeding in parallel progression, ordinary and extraordinary harmonized through shared purpose. The spirit bomb's absorption had initiated unprecedented transformation. The true impact continued unfolding across dimensions and timescales far beyond immediate perception. Evolution without end, harmonization without completion, possibility without limitation. Blank, _ blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.